Hello and welcome to episode 156 of The Imperial Truth. I'm Greg, and joining me as usual is Mr. Howard. Hello, Howard.
Greg. How are you doing? You all right?
I'm shattered. Absolutely shattered. I'm in
the deep tired has kicked in, is it?
Thought it was all finished once we'd got to the open day, but it's not. But there we go. It's all part of the fun.
Everyone likes to keep you busy, Greg. We don't want you getting idle.
Indeed. Before we go any further, we should mention Element Games. You are going to have Plastic Heresy coming out of your eyeballs.
So many toys.
You can get it all at Element Games. I am just confirming whether the price for the box itself will be discounted at their usual thing. Beforehand, a couple of times they haven't. But I've asked them to contact me when they know, so that we can keep you informed. Don't want to send people there under the wrong, with the wrong information.
Mm-hmm.
But even if that isn't, you can get everything pre-release weekend from GW in general at 20% off retail, and it arrives pretty darn quick. And then you can get your crystals and everything as well. Super fantastic. All the stuff you need. Element Games. I did speak to Byron at the open day, actually, which was pretty cool. Yeah, cool. He was a +1 for Andy, I think, for Andy Wardle.
Mm.
But it was good because he knew quite a few people because of Artis Opus as well as Element. So heavily involved in the hobby on different levels.
Mm-hmm.
Won't go too much into what we've been up to because there's a lot on at the moment.
Yeah, does anyone? Well, okay, it's mildly interesting. Maybe.
Yeah, we got some
too much new stuff.
Well, there's too much new stuff. There's lots of interviews coming, which take up a lot of the show, and frankly, I haven't done much. So
you've been fairly busy.
There's that,
I'd say,
as well,
and that's the most interesting thing. And
not hobbying.
I've created another kind of miniature coming along. So yeah, that's kept us both busy.
Hobby did some stuff, put some stuff together, glue. Fantastic. That's their hobby corner done. So we're here to talk. Yeah, check for certain people. If Jason Mullins listens to this podcast, he'll be well happy with that because he always hated the hobby sections. But it's all good. It's all good. So we're going to talk about the open day. This section will be followed by some interviews with top content creators who were there for the open day and the stuff around it, and hopefully there's some interest for you people in there, people from different walks of life and everything else. But yeah, I wanted to talk about my experiences over those few days because it was unique.
Well, the build up to it, because it was quite.
The build up to it as well.
And then the actual event itself was a few.
Because this whole
days, of course, yeah. So it's good to hear. Tell all, Greg. Give us
every now and then
behind the curtain.
Every now and then, GW have invited people up to test stuff, and they've invited people up to have a look at things and stuff like that. But as far as I know, they've never done anything like this.
It's bigger scale, considerably, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking 18 legions, 18 Primarchs, where they've farmed them all out to top content creators.
Invited
official name.
Invited people.
Invited, yeah. So I'm having a look just down here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Yeah, like 30 odd people that were involved directly with painting. I say either legions or Primarchs or both for the open day. And you'll hear responses later on, as I said, about how people the initial contact from GW. I got an email that said, want to do a Skype chat? I was like, is this finally? I'll be finally here.
Timing.
Finally, is this the box?
What are you going to tell us?
But why do they need to do a face chat? That seems a bit strange. I've had a phone call with GW once long ago about something, but and then it was the box is coming. It is real. Shock, and we're doing something different. So, would you want to be involved? And the answer was yes. And then it was, we've got word bearers for you. And I'm like, time scales are a bit tight here. Can I have the
pre or post baby at that point?
So this was all pre baby. This is all aware that we were we had rough time scales.
Yeah.
So we had the date of the open day as the main time scale. and I think I must have been one of the earlier people to get the maybe even on that day, just to get the chat, because, well, Pete the Wargamer was one of the guys involved, and he set up a little group chat on the group Discord, which was cool because we had pretty much most of the people who involved on that Discord, which is really good to get to know each other, share tips and tricks, just to have someone to talk to about it as well, because it's all secret and it's super exciting and it's hard not to talk about what's going on.
You need a bit of a lightning conductor for something like that, don't you?
Yeah, just an outlet.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was awesome, but it was all before baby, and then to finally, like, come on, where is it then? Because I've got a baby coming and I'd love to get on with it. And then it was like, okay, they're going to start sending out just before the baby comes. I was like, awesome, cool. My box got delayed a little bit and didn't arrive till baby had arrived. Yeah, not great timing. Like, beforehand would have given me that week of, maybe I would have got everything built, because I'm a slow builder as well as a slow painter. But yeah, it made things tough because, of course, first week of a baby, don't do much hobby.
Yeah.
We certainly didn't, that's for sure. Especially a baby who's not feeding very well.
We now know what's in that box. That's quite a formidable box to suddenly have around it and have a deadline against it.
Yeah, and the whole box as well. And you'll hear stories of people who don't necessarily paint the whole box later, but we'll let them off. Things happen. It is, at the end of the day,
the aim is to paint the whole box.
Yeah, and GW are asking, this isn't a paid gig from GW. I have a full-time job and the baby, and everyone else pretty much there has a full-time job. Even if it's in painting, they've still got commissions to paint or what have you. So doing this in our free time is a big ask. Easier for some people than others because they can paint like the wind and still paint to a level. But there was a varying amounts of stress at points on the Discord, which is all quite fun and a little bit nerve-wracking. But got it done in the end. Got enough to deliver there. I went up the week before and I took M's and Silver's Primarchs, Corax and Rabute, respectively. Took them up there because I think M was just so fearful of Corax's wings surviving the post, which I can't blame her for.
That is an entirely reasonable concern.
It was sort of a little excuse to visit Warhammer World as well.
Because you need one of those, obviously.
Yeah, I suppose it's been a long time.
I suppose.
Hadn't been since September, so it was like, and in September it was not fully, like, people weren't back at work there fully and stuff like that, so it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like the Bugmans I knew and loved. So that was cool. But yeah, the idea was to paint this up for the open day, but also to go up and have a couple of days at Warhammer World playing the game, being shown how the game works, and also having some stuff done with Games Workshop. James Workshop would have been amazing. I'm really annoyed they didn't get Steve in to do stuff with us now.
Entirely in character, just showing you around for the whole week.
I am going to write that on the feedback. Should have had James Workshop there to have interviews done, which I'm sure some of which are going to appear on Warcom at various points, which was awkward but lovely. Don't do video yet, so always get a bit nervous on video. Clam up a bit. And then we had a tour around the exhibition, which was pretty cool. I've done one before with Neil when he won his Slayer Sword, but this was run by the manager of the Warhammer exhibition. She was fantastic, and little bits of information, handy information, like Mike McVeigh's just joined Instagram. Obviously this is a little bit, you're hearing this a little bit later than he's just joined, but he was encouraged and put up the photo of one of his most famous works, the duel between Horus and the Emperor, and little things like the manager, the lady there, pointing out that if you can now walk around the back side of the diorama and you can see where, like, the back part of the Terminator, of Horus's Terminator leg, is just kind of a browny colour because it's not going to be seen. He painted like
It's
75. Yeah, the back quarter is not finished of those models. So for all those people telling me that the Urban Myth is fake, it's not unpainted. Like, it's not bare plastic like that. That hasn't quite happened, but it's certainly not painted to be seen. That kind of thing. But that was cool. Walk around there, and again, the exhibition hall changes enough that every time I go, there's something new to look at. And because we had people from US, Canada, Australia, various Spain, various other places, a lot of them hadn't been before. See them walk around and see the stuff in person, because again, videos and photos can only do so much, can't they?
Oh, it's quite a significant experience seeing it and being there and seeing all different angles and things, and you see different things in person when you see the way it's been put together and the type of models there. It's highly. Actually, I would recommend it to anyone, regardless if you've seen it before, because they change it up enough. And even seeing the photos that they've done in the recent Warcom articles of things like the Isfan, the dioramas. I say dioramas; it feels like an understatement.
Yes.
You see conflicts and little vignettes within that you just didn't see previously. To be shown around by the person who's the curator of the Warhammer exhibition hall is pretty cool. That's because you're going to get some insights there, surely, of just seeing how they put it together. That's got to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, and it's a fantastic. Emma enjoyed it. Well, how many times she'd go round? Like that's a different story.
Yeah.
But she was really impressed with it and really enjoyed it when she did it, because it is something. But I think she prefers walking around the castle of Harry Potter, or at the end of the tour, instead of the Ultramarines defending their world against the Khorne. But she can be wrong. It's fine. So yeah, a tour around the Warhammer exhibition, and also we had a tour around the Warhammer Studios, or the
Warhammer Plus Studios.
Warhammer Plus Studios, which should I say? Yeah. So if you saw the stream, it's from where Eddie and Adam Troke were presenting, but it's also the room where they do their battle reports. They turn it all around, mix it all up, make quite a good use of a small space. And this is where you'll have seen photos of Andy Wardle dressed up as a tiny Stormcast, or me as doing my Dawn impression with Josh laying at my feet as a dead Alpha Legionnaire. It's all good fun, but yeah, that was cool. And then as part of that, we also got and saw Aidan Daly painting some. I think it was Aidan. Always forget his name. Painting in the painting studio where they do the videos for the painting tutorials.
Nice. A little painting guide thing. So he was mid record, was he?
Well, no, not mid record. Mid filling in the stages. I think. I assume surrounded by lighting and everything. Like, just covered in lights and cameras and what have you, and the little technical desk around the back. And yeah, they got a few little studios there. They've moved them all from last time I went into a studio. We years ago, Michael and myself, Track and Words Michael, got invited in to do a box opening kind of thing for Gaunt's Ghosts, the big special edition they did ages ago, and it didn't get used. But that was all. There was like 6 of them shoved in a room in the main building of Warhammer. They were like Duncan and that were painting on one half, and then there was the smallest little studio behind a curtain, like 5 foot away. So they've got dedicated studios now, which of course they need. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Yeah, we got to play the game itself in a traditional Games Workshop intro game.
There's something quite nice about that.
There is something quite nice. Mine was partly done by Nick Baton, and then Simon Grant took over. And I knew Simon back when he worked at Eastbourne store back in the day, 20 years ago-ish, something like that. And he never introed any games for me, but I saw him doing it. Nothing's changed. It's all the same. And I used to work for GW as well, so it's classic intro games. For those who don't know, who aren't in the UK, I've been to Gen Con and I've seen some terrible intro games of stuff. Games Workshop are quite good in the way they teach their staff those kind of things, and that you walk in and it's high energy but not obnoxious usually. And there's, it's all, you need threes to hit, you need this, you need that, like fast paced, keeping you involved, not getting too deep into the rules. As a Heresy player, did I learn anything majorly new? Got to play around with reactions. That's cool. Couple of little bits. Oh, that's different. Oh, that's a little bit different. But there wasn't really much new there for people who don't really play the game, any of the games much. Some of the painters and stuff like that. It allowed them to feel the Heresy, and that's what those intro games do. Is they give you an idea of how it'll work, how brutal combat can be, how tough contemptors can be in the right circumstances, that kind of thing. And the game feels, that's what I've played of the new edition, and it does feel different. The reactions make a difference. The movements.
How are you
make
doing
a
that? Are you playing it in little groups? Like 2v2 thing with someone coaching you through it? Or
there were general little groups that were that went in together. I ended up playing with Electric Eve M, and we played against Pete the Wargamer as a little section. But then actually Richard Gray, I don't know why, but he ended up walking in towards the end of that session, and so I ended up smashing him off the table as well.
So some nice grudges you've built up now.
Yeah, absolutely. Good dice. But so it was small groups in that room, which was nice. It was really chilled, really relaxed. Getting a little look around, and we also there got to see those models earlier. People will have seen. Well, I mean, everyone's seen it now, but people saw the leaks that happened. But we got that was in that room. We got to see the Kratos, which for the first time in the flesh, because we've had the box. The box is the box, so we've had the rule book. Right, we've seen pictures of it early, and everyone's seen the animation as well. So, it was displayed there a little bit, but to actually see it in the flesh, couldn't touch it.
The size of the thing, dimensions of it,
and the little design elements of it as well. And we only saw one armament of it. We didn't see the other weapons, but I'm getting a couple of them for sure. Really good. And then the heavy weapons sets and the special weapons sets. At that point, we just seen those. They looked cool. Much excitement. A lot of sitting around, kind of whispering about cool stuff. It was like the kids being allowed into the sweet shop.
Those weapon sets do look cool. I think they've done a good job with those. I mean, the way they've packaged them up and stuff, and it looks like it's going to be good fun.
Absolutely,
mixture of shoulder mounted and otherwise. I'm quite keen to see how they work with the new plastics and the old plastics, for that matter.
Yeah.
Do they just replace bolters? Do they replace whole arms and shoulder pads? I've got no idea. I'm looking forward to seeing the sprues.
Yeah, and we'll have to dive into that when we get a bit more
when we see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions about those 2 days?
How did it? More specifically, in the build up to it. Yeah, I'll get to them. I'll go through them chronologically.
Sure, that's fine.
How? Thinking about how to phrase this diplomatically. How did it feel being that they're reaching out to you? You were aware of the other people, some of the other people, possibly all the other people that they were asking. Some of the greatest painters through the way they've won awards, and I think it would be reasonable to say, even though it's subjective, some of the best painters in the world were being invited to do this stuff, including paint box sets, not just paint Primarchs. They've asked you to come along. I don't think you would rank yourself as in that sort of painting thing. That's not really your driver, to say the least.
I'm sure they were like Angel Heraldez, Richard Gray, Greg Dan. Oh yeah, Andy Wardle. Yeah, maybe him. Yeah, absolutely.
You're punching up there. You're obviously. Yeah. I mean, you're just chucking demons out there. Golden demons. You don't even need them anymore.
No, too right. I've carried some golden demons before. I've held a Slayer sword. I've now held the ever-chosen sword. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, so that's 2 out of 2. I don't think Neil Hollis has ever held that. So,
shame.
in his face.
How did that feel though? Being thrown in with that
Oh,
that group.
ridiculous! Absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, it's pressure already. You're like, I've got to put this together, and oh yeah, by the way, the public are going to come in and look at your stuff and question you on it.
And
We're
more
going to
than
stick
that,
it on the website. Yes.
yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Like the public are going to look at it, cool. A lot of people aren't going to know who I am there. Then it's going to go up online, and then other heresy YouTube or podcasters might decide to make comments on it, and you're opening yourself up a little bit to that. And I'm painting Mark 6 Iron Warriors, which some people have a problem with, which is part of the reason I chose the Iron Warriors, because I was like, cool, if there is going to be any kind of comeback on making Mark 6, Iron Warriors are going to be the prime legion for them to have a go at.
Yeah.
And I don't want someone who's not necessarily in the heresy circle getting grief for that, because that there were already, if you look at some of the people, so Silver was probably someone who got targeted a little bit with unfairly, with a little bit of who is she, what's she doing kind of thing. And actually, when you look at what she does, she absolutely deserved to be there. What I didn't want was people to then be putting stuff on someone like that who doesn't need it, doesn't deserve it, is doing something really cool. It's like, cool, fire at me. I do 30k, and I'm cool with it, and you can get over it. It can be quite contrary as is. So part of that was aspect of that. Yeah, it was nerve wracking. I know I'm one of the slowest painters I've ever met, so that was always going to be a struggle. And I kind of had to make sure. I said to Andy when we were doing it, I was like, I just want you to know that my models they won't be good. They'll be all right, but I want people to be able to see them in the cabinet and say, oh, cool. Like, I don't have to paint like Richard Gray, Henry Steele. Henry paints armies really well. Pete the Wargamer is a fantastic example.
They were. Well, I mean, both of those particularly. I mean, all of them, frankly, looked amazing. But there was, as you say, Pete the Wargamer.
Mine looked okay, and that's fine. The sergeants all had different head on the Iron Warrior's head with the faceplate. The Praetor they used had a couple of had a Mark II head and had the Thunder Hammer from the Golden Keshig, which worked really well on that model, and people were very complimentary about that aspect of it, and people were very complimentary about the models. And if I wasn't a podcaster, I don't know if I'd quite get such nice words, but they were fine. They were okay. So, GW showed my Terminators, which again I've heard someone talk about today. I like, they're fine. Had I had more time, there would have been transfers for sure. Had I had a bit more time, I might have done the odd bit of hazard stripes, but I wouldn't have done too much. That was partly just didn't wanted to leave it, but the odd hazard stripe here and there.
There was quite a lot. I mean, obviously, it was a range of different people who were known for working on different things, content creators, whatever phrase you want to use. There were people there who were not as familiar, or who were not previously familiar necessarily, or certainly weren't as entrenched, let's say, within heresy as others. That's kind of the point. It's kind of a sensible move on GW's part to say, let's expose this. We're showing this off. We want to show it off to a wide range of people. Did you get a sense from the others? Was there anyone there going, I've got no idea what any of this is. I don't know what I'm doing, or otherwise? Did you get a sense of that at all from anyone? Or was everyone going like, actually, this is a really cool thing, and I'm going to explore it if I don't know it before now?
There was one person who was like, oh, I've just found out that the colour scheme's completely different in the heresy. Like, that was like the biggest kind of like, oh, you really don't know. That's fair enough. Cool. Yeah. Basically, you've got... we were asked to do the iconic colour schemes, very good reasons, because, otherwise it all goes all over the place. Like, you've got to have some form of remit on that.
Well, good to have this as a starting point.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can then do whatever you like, but this is where it perhaps starts.
Yeah, so that was probably the furthest, I think. So you're hearing the interviews. Someone like Darcy went and was vaguely familiar. Well, was familiar-ish with the setting, read a few books, but went away and did some research. when she got her
Cool.
Legion, which is really cool. A few people got more into kind of having a look at the Heresy, for sure. I think most people would say, one or two people really didn't know anything, but hey, who cares?
But then that's a completely. Well, there's going to be a lot of people in that same place. You can see it now in the buzz. The buzz is great, seeing it from the community that already know it, and then there's also the people who are going, "Oh, I've heard of Heresy. I want to start somewhere." And you're like, "That's cool. It's perfectly reasonable." I mean, in the same way that we're talking about your painting models that you would consider. You said before that they would be okay for use in one of your events, or something like that. You think that's relevant? It's important to have that alongside people who are winning golden demons and putting in the kind of time necessary to do that, or even people who are highly evolved in the completely different set of skills that are needed to paint an army to an extremely high level. Same thing. I think it's very interesting, particularly if you're going to have an open day where people can turn up and talk to people who've had the experience with these things to say, well, what was your experience of starting out with this?
Yeah. It's I think open day was an interesting thing. We probably slide into that. So the open day itself, like nothing runs 100% smoothly. Let's say that from the start. There were some learning points, shall we say? Some of them beyond the control of the people organising it. Some of them, I would expect if they did this again moving forwards, would be changed. And that's what you can ask for. So I think it was 450 tickets sold for the day. Now you've been to open days before. They have you have the main hall at Warhammer World with all the shops. You have Bugman's, and then you have the staff canteen gets taken over. Now on this day, the staff canteen was an open play area with scenarios written with specific units in mind, so that people could learn different aspects. Now each scenario did something slightly different from the new rule set, which is a really cool idea. Normally, at an open day, that would have some studio staff in that area. GW they weren't allowed to have studio staff for whatever reasons. The people who organised it weren't allowed to have studio staff. So, from that point, like you kind of got to ignore all that stuff. Like you can't have it, can't do it. So they've utilised that space to do this open play to try and get people, and that was very much a come read the pack yourself, work it out, have a little playthrough. And just get a feel of the rules. And I saw people using repulsors and things like that to represent different troop types, and cool, that's all you need, right? It's an idea just to get a feel for the game. One thing opening that room does is that allows extra people, because there's only so many people allowed in the building due to fire eggs and everything else. So having that,
you said it was 450.
Yeah, so having that room open allows them to go to that many. Bearing in mind there were like 700 odd tickets, people on the wait list, and some people who bought tickets secondhand didn't get them off the wait list, so there were other people wanted them as well.
I said it myself. I went on to the process, went to buy a ticket, it was instantly unavailable. That's annoying. That's instantly the case, but keep trying. Went on the wait list. I was one of many. So numerous people had that same experience.
But what do you do? Do you go and hire somewhere? It's really expensive. As I say, I suspect if they had a Warhammer Fest, this would all have happened at Warhammer Fest.
Yeah.
And that would have solved half the issues there. What's interesting is people have referred to it as a weekender or compared it to a weekender. The weekender is a 2-day event where you're basically stuck in a hotel. Everything's within a very small area. There are 2 days, 8-9 seminars over those 2 days and 3 rooms different doing seminars plus signings, other things like that. There's a lot going on in a small space with a more restricted number of people, and it's advertised as being something very different. Open days are 1 day, come in, you can have a talk to people, and they have done seminars before. Black Library weekend open days more so, but it's a completely different beast. It's 1 day for start. You can't. Part of the weekender that people talk about so much is you do that and then you go to the bar that's right there. Yes, you've got Bugman's, but it's not the same as sitting at the bar at 10:30 with whoever happens to hang around at the Black Library Weekender, like all the authors hanging around the bar talking. You haven't got that kind of access.
No, it's
So
a very
you
different.
can't-
I mean, you can just tell, can't you? A open day is a much more intense, usually high energy type of thing because you're packing into only a few hours what is otherwise drawn out over an entire weekend, including the social time and the downtime. There's sort of little chance meetings or set up things on into the evening, entertainment, whatever. It's a weekend is a completely different beast, a completely different tempo to the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the two, and I know, it's not in a bad way. It's ignorance because only so many people go to the Weekender, but they are
for obvious reasons.
Completely different things. It's not worth comparing the two. Compare it to an open day, fair enough. And this was sort of a semi-open day, semi-launch event thing. Wasn't even quite an open day really. But yeah, you had that. You had Bugman's, and then in the main hall you had a large set of tables, much like at Warhammer Fest, places like that where you can sit and paint. And they had Mark 6 Marines out. You were supposed to build and paint one and take it away with you. Some very cool people were grabbing handfuls. In fact, at the end, I was with one of the organisers when some people was like, "I didn't get to paint. I didn't get a mini." They're like, okay, well, we're getting near enough the end that I can just go and take one of the ones that we were using for our demo games, and I'll let you take that home.
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool. At least they got to take home the mini to practice with at home. So you had a large table for sitting down and painting in Mark 6, and they were set up with like the colours that you were giving a Legion, like you sat by a Legion, it had the colours there, and I think there were some little bits about maybe colours going walking and stuff like that. It's going to happen, like I say, I dread to think how many things get nicked off those little tables. It's sad, really, but it is what it is.
That takes the shine off a little bit. It's a bit disappointing if that's the case, but I mean,
it is what it is.
Open event,
Then they had an area where you had staff-led intros. So they were running through the intros. They were carrying books with them, but didn't really use them. That was maybe a misstep. Because if you see a book, you want to read it. The only other book. Yeah, the only other book we saw was behind glass, but that's fine. That's cool. Again, they were proper intro games to a system, so you had to kind of approach it that way. I think you had to book time slots in for that as well. I think they were quite busy. I didn't look at it myself. You also had a painting competition, which wasn't a Golden Demon. It had a best in show prize, but it was basically done on level of paintings. You got a gold, silver, or bronze if you got or nothing. Which is quite cool. So lots of people being able to like get a judgment level on their painting and comparing it, and have the opportunity to talk to. So Louise Sugden was judging it with what's the normal guy who does all the judging and the painting?
Max Fillage?
No, it wasn't Max. It was I can't remember who it was now. Blimey, it's gone. It wasn't Darren Latham, was it? But it doesn't matter who was judging it. They were decent painters. So yeah, they were all being judged there. Yeah, that was really busy. Queues to get in and all that to get their models.
I heard it was pretty busy. I was just receiving the buzz afterwards. It sounded like that was one of the bigger main events, kind of thing.
Yeah, and then you had the cabinets with the content creators models in and the display models and all that jazz down one side of the hall, and then kind of next to that, behind where people were queuing, unfortunately, for that was the table where they sat the content creators for their little half-hour meet and greets. So I think a lot of quite a large number of problems were from the amount of people that were in that hall.
Okay.
And this was kind of an extension. If I go to an open day, I normally bypass the first room because I don't want to buy anything. I'm cool. Go straight through Bugman's, straight through to the studio bit, and it takes 10, 15 minutes to fill up because people are coming in and looking at first stage, second stage, or buying stuff or whatever. I don't think people were as keen to go through to that section until they'd done the other stuff. So it didn't fill up very quickly, which meant from that 450 people, you had a lot of them in that first hall, queuing up to see the models, that kind of stuff. So there was a kind of a people flow issue, which was unexpected. Like thought it might spread out a little bit more, which it's just one of those things, really. By later in the day, it had, it just took longer than normal on an open day. So I can kind of I can completely understand how that happened. the one thing I will say is the communication from GW. I think next time will be a bit better about what the event is, maybe.
Okay.
And there were time constraints, obviously. This has to be organised on a schedule and things like that. But what we were there for, because we were kind of there as punters on that day, apart from our little half-hour sections, there were lots of people coming up to various content creators saying, "Oh, I love your stuff. How'd you do this? How'd you paint that? Kind of can I have a photo?" That kind of stuff was all being done. Saw lots of it, not with me, but with people with these YouTube channels and stuff like that, which was really cool. But maybe an idea of more obvious when we would be around and available, and where to go and what the games were designed for. I've seen some 30k people kind of say, "Oh, we walked out and we were trying to find a rule book to find the really how these rules interactions work." And it's like, well, they were intro games. All those games were intro games. They're not designed to get down to the nitty gritty. They're designed to get that feeling. And I think from the people who didn't really play, because there were a lot of people there who I don't think really play 30k, I think they were very excited by those intro games.
I mean, the whole reactions thing is a great thing to intro. I mean, there's a great thing to intro, and I've heard plenty of people who have only been exposed to 40k, maybe Age of Sigmar, other things like that, and they've never played 30k of any variety. To then hear that it's got a whole new mechanic has been genuinely exciting to people. An intro game's perfect for that kind of thing, but as you say, communication about what to expect. That's
maybe a flyer,
and that might refine in the future.
Yeah,
fine.
A lot of open days will have a flyer beforehand telling you what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them with just a map of what was being done where and what have you. Maybe, but it is what it is. As I say.
How did your bit work? Did your work as you had a time slot for sort of?
Yeah, we were all given. There were
three time doing that.
3 tables, a little time slot. As I say, for the early ones, particularly the queue was a little bit in the way to the queue to see the models. But when I sat down, I don't think it wasn't obvious where we were unless you'd been in that queue either. But so that might have led to fewer people coming over. But there wasn't really much. Whether there needed to be a more formal setting, I don't know. Heard some people say they were a bit intimidated by us being sat behind a table with a couple of models out. I can sort of understand that, but I'm not beyond making it easier to find us. If we're standing or sitting somewhere, if that's intimidating, then that's kind of always going to be intimidating. I don't necessarily think having a black tablecloth between you and the other person, removing that helps that much. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm wrong.
I see both sides, because I could see that. I mean, that's the most practical, certainly given space constraints. Yeah. The thing that I've always found to be quite good, and I'm lifting this entirely from Weekenders, which are the wrong format for this, but something that might be quite good. It's almost like round tables. Having, and I mean that in the sense of you have literal round tables, but also just in the metaphorical version as well, where you have said maybe 1 or 2 content creators, and people can kind of drift in and join a conversation and find it easy to, rather than the slightly more interview like across a desk kind of approach. That might be an alternative, but then that's a huge space requirement for that.
Yeah, maybe standing and having those models. The thing is, the models were out, so you could pick them up. So having them in a cabinet next to you wouldn't really work. No. I could show the 1 or 2 people that came over, pick my model up and have a look around it and stuff. But yeah, I don't know how much, because we're not staff. Maybe there's just a lower threshold for being interested. I'm not sure.
It's something to play with. It's an interesting endeavour, though. It's an interesting concept to have a group of invited people who they know they can work with, who they can have a go with this kind of stuff, and that's something that's quite interesting, just for them to just experiment with a new format and then presumably refine it as they go forward. It's a cool idea, I think.
Yeah,
it seemed like there was a good energy there.
Yeah, there was. I spent a couple of days around most of those people. At various points, people came in, and you'll hear in the interviews they're good people. We had one issue, and I think that was a genuine error, but it happened. Whatever. People bought into it from people who were involved in the heresy community bought into it. People not involved in the heresy community bought into it, and they all cared about what we were doing as well. Like from what I saw, didn't speak to everyone all the time, but it seemed to be like I spent some time around Angel Heraldez over dinner and just generally and stuff. And he sat down and did a little 1 hour painting competition with one of his mates. I can't remember who it was, and painted their Mark 6 Marine at that little painting table. And he put his Sons of Horus in with whoever's Sons of Horus they were on the display cabinet, but they did genuinely seem to care, and that's all you can ask for. And as I say, you'll see from some of the interviews, like even if people don't necessarily go on to do official stuff with it for their channels or what have you, there was a commitment to what they were asked to do, which is what you can ask. Vanguard Tactics painted the Sons of Horus. There we go. Yeah, and we'll see. Obviously, we were asked to record and do stuff around it. That's the whole reason to invite content creators. You saw videos and stuff from the event, but like information about the actual game and stuff like that, we're only allowed to talk about at a certain time, and that stuff should be out there now. Like if you're listening to this, that's because we're in that period where people are talking about it. So go and find some of that stuff. Because
I'm excited about that.
I'm looking forward to
seeing people report about the event. See, the odd video was coming out that people were recording at the time and then releasing afterwards. I'm excited.
Paint videos.
I was thinking more
as well.
Interviews with people.
Yeah, I'm talking about paint videos as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. All the stuff that's coming, I think, is going to be really cool. It's ignited a bit of a fire, you can tell, and so I think we're going to see some cool stuff out of that.
Absolutely, and I think people might be surprised by like kind of how into heresy some of those people are, which is a good thing. And some of them more into it now than they were beforehand, which is the very nature of these things. The open day, they also had the live stream on the big screen, but no sound. So if you were at home watching the live stream, you got all that information, and we didn't get it in the building itself. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think as soon as you put a loud sound over a room like that, people compete, and all of a sudden all you've got is two loud sounds and you've got sore throats, people shouting, you can't hear anything going on. It's not particularly nice. I don't think there's a better way of doing that.
Not really. I mean, even putting it in a specific room and then that room becomes packed potentially. I mean, you're like,
but then only so many people are there anyway. So the disadvantage of being there live is you didn't get to hear the live stream and those extra bits of information. The advantage of being there live was you got to saw the Kratos actually in a few inches in front of your face to see how big that dozer blade is, and you got to see the weapons, all the different weapons, and you got to look a little bit. You couldn't get all the way around the cabinets, but you got to stare a little bit. The open day was great fun. I spent a lot of it just talking to some mates because I hadn't seen those people in a long time, but there was a buzz of energy. There were lots of people there who didn't seem to be initially heresy fans. Like they seemed to be finding out about it. GW also invited a lot of cosplayers, which was pretty cool. Always exciting.
A huge number of cosplayers there.
Quite a few,
quite a big event for that, which was a surprising one for that. But I mean, it seems like there was ones there I hadn't seen previously. Some of them you see turning out for different things, and it was quite cool to see that number in one place. Yeah,
a number of different sized Space Marines and a Rogel Dawn and some Gaunt's Ghosts. Not much of it was 30k, but I mean, frankly, who cares? They're cool suits. At the end of the day, it's just cool to see people like that. Some fantastic stuff going on, and people seem to. So lots of photos of people hanging around and doing that. So that's nice of GW to have that. That's just another thing, isn't it? It's another thing, and if it's not your thing, you just move past it and do your thing. At the end of the day, like there are things. If I could make my ideal Heresy Open day, there's things I would want there that they couldn't do. So I don't. That's just the nature of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in general, even the people I've heard being more critical of the day said they had fun.
Yeah.
And there definitely wasn't there was a real energy of this is coming. Like Heresy is here, and
we're taking
it's
it.
going to be
It's
big.
significant. This is significant. This isn't a small release that we're going to focus on for now and then move on to the next thing. This has got some momentum behind it.
Absolutely. So I think, I don't know. Unless you've got any more questions about the open day.
I think we've covered it all. I mean, we've sort of been through it and been over it. I think that's a fair reflection on your thoughts and seeing what it was like being someone there on that side of it, the sort of almost that invited, yet still fundamentally part of it, like anyone else. I think that's some really interesting take on it to have, and then the takeaways from that. And as you said, how does it compare to other events of a similar type and not so similar type? I think and overall it was fun. Sounds like it was pretty exhausting overall in terms of the build up to it and what it had to be, but pretty cool to just be invited and to be part of it. And then
super cool, man. I say, as someone who's not known for their hobby content, in that respect, felt a bit of a fraud at times, but kind of a little bit proud as well that the show. We're coming up, so this will be our end of the month. So I'm trying to remember if it's June or July that we started, but this show's 8 years old this year.
There you go.
Been doing it for 8 years, and have made a show that people want to be associated with. So, for all the ups and downs the show's had, that's my little bit of big-headedness. It's cool, I made stuff that people like.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with sort of recognising. Well, it's quite nice when someone's reaching out though with those sorts of things. Then it puts an onus on. I better deliver now, hadn't I?
And there's been a lot of criticism about the event, and some of it. So I think we've covered some of the aspects of that, and that's fine. I think some of the bigger criticism has come from a misunderstanding of what the event was ever going to be. And I almost think it doesn't matter what GW said. Some people were in the Heresy community were wanting it to be an event it couldn't be. And in fact, as we said, this whole launch to be something it's never going to be. For GW to make plastic Sicarans and heavy weapons teams, and to put out new tanks like the Kratos and whatever else we're going to get from GW for this Demios Rhino. So they got Rhinos, they're putting out another plastic Rhino. That's all it doesn't. It's not all it does, but that divides a revenue source into two. You will sell more, but how many more are you going to sell? That kind of thing. To do all that, they're not looking at hooking Greg Dan in, because you know what? He's probably going to buy some stuff anyway. They need to hook in people who watch Hellstorm Wargaming, people who watch, Angel Heraldo's videos to see what they're going to paint, people who, do all kinds of other stuff that isn't Heresy. This box is, as I say, everyone and his wife in the Heresy community is going to pick up at least one box, but more important for GW is people outside the Heresy picking up these boxes.
Definitely, yeah.
And to do that, the event had to be about intro games and had to be about these lore articles we've seen of the Legions coming up. It showed my Terminators. Woo! Bless them. These lore articles are written in a way that is non-standard for Heresy articles. There's a lot more irreverence in there, a lot more fun, less stuffiness.
Isn't it? Yeah.
And again, I think that's all down to breaking it down and making it very accessible. And if we want a game that lots of people are going to play, that's the way to do it. And you know what? I think it's working.
Based on what one is generally perceiving. As clued in as anyone can be. No, well, probably not. Actually, probably not at all. But it's just looking across it, there seems to be some energy. I keep using that term, but there certainly seems to be the buzz around it, so it seems to be getting some kind of traction. I think they've made some good choices with what they're going to do for this release.
Oh yeah, and looking at the stuff that was in the cabinets, we got the Kratos and everything else and all that. It was lovely. We got to see all the extra weapons. Super awesome. What was really interesting were those 9 traitor and 9 loyalist Mark 6s all painted up in new styles. Like they've developed new paint schemes that are a halfway house between the old Heresy style and the GW Prime heavy metal style.
Didn't you mention there's quite a big painting team?
10 heavy metal painters and 4 studio painters. I was talking to one of the studio painters who I happen to know, and he was like, one of the things that they try to do, and I was talking to the guy who heads up the team actually as well, one of the things they try to do is reduce the gap between those 2 levels of painting as well.
Interesting.
So I'm trying to remember now. I believe the Imperial Fists on the box, Imperial Fists, so I think all the... could be wrong on this. With pinch of salt, it's somewhere around here. Like the Sons of Horus were painted by the heavy metal painters, but some of the army painters helped paint the fist stuff.
Okay.
And it's like the level is almost there. That kind of thing. It's along those lines. Basically, there was an effort to make to get the painting quality of the army painters up towards that heavy metal standard. And they did a job because I didn't notice any difference.
Wow.
And those test pieces, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We talked about the Death Guard scheme and all that. It's all various of those guys.
I've seen quite a few people reflecting on those, where we've seen that little collection of, I think it was in the article that they put on Warcom, talking about, hey, we've got new plastic Mark 6 Marines. And they showed, and they said, and here are some examples of them. And particularly something like the Ultramarine that they had there. They had, I think it was Death Guard Ultramarines. And you mentioned it.
Night Lords and
Raven Guard.
Yeah, Raven Guard, yeah. Raven Guard, yeah.
And you were commenting on the evolution, if you like, of the Death Guard representation there. The Ultramarine there is a very different way than they represent. Much more desaturated blue, a sort of earthier almost look to him compared to some of the slightly more bright, really rich blues that you've had in the past. Little things, and you think, okay, some thought's gone into this. And when you've seen the interviews, which I'm hoping we'll get to see more of, but we've seen interviews in the past, like I saw the heavy metal team interviewed, or the heavy metal lead, who painted the Chaos Marines when they redid the basic Chaos Space Marine kit. And the thought that went into the design process of just even the paint scheme was significant. So hearing that there's that number of painters involved as a project, that's pretty cool. I kind of want to see what they've done. So I would love to see that, what you saw there of the 18 Legion, single one of every Mark 6. Actually, they're putting them in each one of these daily articles that they're putting out. Quite looking forward to seeing all those together, because they're quite interesting takes on a Legion colour scheme.
It'd be nice if that makes it into the Warhammer exhibition. Those 2 little stands, I'm sure they will.
I suspect it will
at some point. As a nice little piece to go in there. That'd be really cool. But yeah, I think we're probably done.
That was the open day.
That was the open day and the time around it. And we'll have, I say, we got various interviews on this show, and we will have a second part coming out quickly afterwards with more on there as well, because I think it's interesting look to get different people's viewpoints. Yeah, we're all coming from very different places. Even the people who are into the heresy are coming at it from very different places. So
there were YouTubers there were painters there, people with Instagrams. Were there other podcasters there?
I believe I was the only podcaster.
Right.
Which was fun when trying to decide what content to produce. Apart from talking about it for 2 hours. So my kind of efforts are what you will hear later on, and please let me know how they go down. But as I say, I'm not sure what those YouTubers and Instagrammers are going to be doing either, beyond what they've already done with tagging people. Instagram tagging just seems like a faff to me, but every time I got tagged by Silver or someone else, I got more followers. So it works. Like it's just a really simple, I've got more followers than before the weekend because those people were tagging me and stuff. As simple as that. But yeah, you look down the list. Peter Wargamer, if he does stuff on how he painted his World Eaters, it's going to be fantastic. Vince Venturella does a lot of great stuff, and he did the Alpha Legion and Perturabo. Cult Paint, obviously, smashing it out. Yeah, plenty of really interesting stuff going on. Really like it. But I think we're probably done for this.
I think it covers it, yeah.
And we'll come back and we need a whole episode to talk about news, which will be way out of date, but I think we need to go back
just break it down, and we can pack in the even more news by the time we got there. But
the list is growing. The list is mega growing. But it's all good fun. Nice one, Howard.
We've waited. Now the floodgates are open. Let's go big.
Yes, it is our time.
We're gonna entirely roll in it.
You know it. Wonderful. Cheers, man.
Good to speak to you, Eddie.
I'd like to welcome to the show Darcy. How are you doing?
Hi, Greg. I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing grand. Thank you very much. So first off, probably should introduce yourself a little bit. You are a top content creator, according to Games Workshop. What do you do?
I primarily paint. I started with Age of Sigmar and fantasy stuff back in the day. And just kind of dabbled and picked up the hobby again in 2017. And I paint and I put things on Instagram and other image-based social media. So
you've got a YouTube account, haven't you?
I do. I don't get to use it as much, just because it takes me so long to make videos because I'm not familiar with it. So Grandma's got to figure out what she's doing. But that, and I enjoy painting more. So the amount of time it takes for me to make a video tutorial, I could have been much more productive.
Everyone who hasn't started a podcast or a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel just want to, they don't realize that it just eats so much into your.
And I get that it'll go faster the more I do it. Like obviously, the more you practice something, the easier it is. So I want to start doing that. But since my son's not in school yet, he's not old enough to be. I have to eat into my evening painting time, basically. So, but that'll change this coming autumn, actually. So,
excellent. Is that Darcy Bono Creates? Is it on Instagram?
Darcy Bono Creations.
Creations. Nice and simple. We'll put links in the show notes anyway if anyone wants to find it. So, So you said you were Age of Sigmar back in the day. I like the fact that you put Age of Sigmar and back in the day in the same.
Oh no, fantasy back in the day.
Oh, you were proper fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
Started with the lizard men before they were Seraphon.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Lizard men are cool. So, how much of the Horus Heresy were you familiar with?
I had read the main books. I think 4 of the main books. And then we ended up moving houses, and I stopped everything, and then forgot to pick it back up. So I knew the main story, and I knew the main characters. Outside of that, that was it. It was just kind of like a something I had heard a lot about and dabbled in, basically.
Cool, just being in that environment, picking up little bits and pieces.
Right. The whole because it had such a passionate fan base. I was like, all right, let's see what this is all about. So that's what initially piqued my interest because I kept hearing about it.
Sure. So Games Workshop get hold of you and invite you to be part of something they haven't done before, coming over to England, painting up. You painted up Angron, is that correct?
I did, yes, appropriately enough. I told him I didn't have a preference. I was just happy to be there. And they're like, "How do you feel about painting Angron?" And he was literally like the top of my mind when they were like, "We're going to ask you to paint something." I was like, "God, I hope it's World Eaters or Angron."
Is there any specific reason for that, or just love them?
I like really. So I've said before to people when I'm talking about like Age of Sigmar stuff, I like Beast, I like Brutes, I like anything large and hulking and angry. They're the personification of that. So I like painting that as well, not just looking at that. So that was why he was at the top of my list. I know he's a total. I know he's not the most popular Primarch, but as far as like something I think I could make look good and like put my personality into. Yeah.
You're referring to the model there as not being there.
Oh, both.
Or both. Okay.
Both as far as like personality wise and because if you
Well,
haven't read Betrayer, if you haven't read like the background stuff on Angron, he is really two-dimensional, like just really the big angry rage monster. But if you haven't read his stories, I mean that's how he comes across. But once you read them, he's got a lot more. He's got a very tragic backstory.
yeah, his Primarch book is one of the best Primarch books.
Mm-hmm.
It is fantastic. So that's cool. So you got a bit of an understanding that when you were given Angron, did you then go back and look at anything or?
Yeah, once they gave me Angron, so I had only read Slave in New Syria, I think. I'd only read one of his books. And then once they gave me Angron, I was like, okay, I'm gonna research as much of this as I can to make sure I get all the painting right. Because I know it's a very like faux history based platform. Like this matters to people. So I mean you wouldn't put Napoleon driving a tank. So so I wanna make this as accurate to the story as I can. So I went and listened to all the books of his I could, and finished with Betrayer.
Well, you got some good books to read there as well.
Yes, they weren't a chore at all. I was like I was super excited to start the next one.
Sure, there's a shout out to ADB there as well.
Yeah,
I know definitely. He'll be pleased to hear that.
His creation of Latara Saren, that was just that like made my day.
We will get onto that in a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
That's quite all right. I don't want
to steer the conversation, but yeah, he deserves all the accolades for that.
And that's fine. So what was it like getting that first contact with GW?
It was funny because the night I had gotten the email saying, "Hey, we want to do a web conference," I told my husband, I was like, brushing our teeth about to go to bed. I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Do you think this might be a big deal? Like they've never asked for a web conference before." And he's like, "What? Like they're gonna like fly you to Warhammer World?" I was like, "Yeah." I mean, what if? I was like, "Is that all right?" Because he's military, so he's got to put well in advance time off work. I was like, would you make that work? Because I was like, I don't know if they're gonna ask it. I might be like dreaming here. And then literally like at the web conference, I'm like holding on tight. I'm like, I hope I'm not overthinking this. And then he asked, and I was like, so yeah, that was magical. It was like borderline like on par of like wedding proposal level significance.
Yeah, excellent. That's awesome. That's really cool. So they've, it turns out they've given you Angron absolutely perfect for what you want to do. With your painting, is something like a Primarch model? Are you familiar with those kind of sculpts? Like something?
Oh yeah, I had done Lionel Johnson before.
Ah, cool.
He's the only one I had done, but I had like seen them. I love the Sanguinius one. I knew like of them. I just hadn't painted them other than Lionel Johnson. Yeah.
So it wasn't a complete shock.
No.
That's cool.
I was very excited for that.
Because Angron's, it's quite old now. I mean, the first one, it was a while ago. Bless it as a model. I say it has some interesting people's views on it. So we've all set up then for kind of got together as a group on Discord.
Yeah, Pete set that up. Pete the Wargamer.
Pete the Wargamer, what a legend.
Good on him.
Did that just increase height for you? Did that put any pressure on you?
Yeah, it actually did. Well, one, like organization-wise, it was great. That was masterstroke on Pete's part. But yes, it intimidated. Not intimidated, but like I was excited to see all these people.
Sure.
Like seeing all these people that I'm like, I watch their tutorials. I know that guy. And then once I found out Richard Gray and Angel Giraldes was going to be there, I was like, I'm going to fangirl. This is just going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to be awkward, but it'll be fine. They'll delete it from their memory, I'm sure. But
there were fangirling moments from many of the men as well. When
you can't not, like, we all know each other. Like there's like not a hierarchy, but there's like there's the Brad Pitts of our hobby, and you can't not freak out over that.
Hold on. We're comparing Richard Gray to Brad Pitt.
Well, like 90s, early 2000s Brad Pitt.
Okay, I think he'll take it, to be honest.
Like Troy.
Yeah, sure. We're with that. I'll bring that up when I interview him. It's fine. It would be great. Angel's English is not bad. It's better than my Spanish. But it's almost a shame that like reaching out to him to do this might be a bit difficult. But definitely the reaction, not just you, a number of people when Angel appeared on that group was quite fun.
Well, I asked for a selfie when I saw him. I was like, I'm just going to do it because otherwise I'm going to regret it. Even if it's horrifically awkward, I'm going to regret it more if I don't ask. So I asked for a selfie, and then I felt terrible because it started a chain of other selfies with people. So I was like,
he seems, to be fair to him, he seems pretty happy to take a selfie, and his Instagram post recently with various people in the group has been definitely doesn't put himself on a pedestal at all.
No, he was perfectly nice about it. I just felt bad because like 2 or 3 other people came up afterwards. I was like, his poor wife is just like taking cameras. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't think anyone else would do it.
Awesome. So, how long did it take you, Angron?
Oh, for Angron? Oh God, I don't know actually because I was working on him and I was like, I got to get this done before Adepticon.
Sure.
So I can ship it out and have it well ahead. And then they pushed the date back for when they needed him. So I was like, oh, well then I'll just take my time. So I don't know exactly because Adepticon was in the middle of that, and I took a break. He was really honestly he was really easy to paint just because he's all bronze armor.
Sure.
And I can't do non-metallic metal, and honestly I don't think he would look good in non-metallic metal. Because he's not meant to be resplendent. He's meant to be grungy and broken and, not shining. So
yeah, to do something like that, I think you'd have to take the whole piece a different way, and it would take it away from probably what it needs to be for this event. You'd have to have for something else. It could work, but
well, his whole diorama base is him busting through a line of guys in rubble. So unless he's just touched down, he's going to be,
I could almost see like an anime style paint job on him, but that's not, as you say, you're trying to go for something that's relevant to the game, the setting, and that isn't. Yeah, that's cool. So, getting over to Warhammer World, have you been before?
No, this is my first time. That's why I was freaking out so hard.
And not only coming to Warhammer World, but getting to go behind the scenes. What was your favourite part of those 3 days that we had there? If you were there a bit longer, but
my sense of time's all disrupted because we actually toured. My husband and I toured Southern England the week before, but my favorite day was the exhibition hall. That was everything I hoped it would be. That was like the main thing, aside from like meeting all of these star people. That was like the main thing I was super excited about, and that was just exceeded my expectations that were already like pretty high. I had heard things, but you have to see it in person. It's what everyone says, but it's true.
But that's really good to hear because it does get talked about so much, and I say I try and go out there at least once a year and have a look around and what have you. Often you can big things up too much when people are coming over, and then they can only ever be let down by it. But for it to exceed expectations is.
Oh, I went back again so I could like savor it a little more, and not just like you are like I wanted to take pictures because we could, but I also just wanted to savor the moment, savor the exhibits.
Awesome. Favorite exhibit?
Ooh, that's a tough one I really that's bias. I really like the World Eaters like airbase that they did. I think it was a specific battle. Yeah. I really liked that one because I liked seeing them unmask and like not like what they looked like before they're bloody, essentially, because everyone has seen that, but seeing like them getting ready was really cool. And God, the Eldar lava one, I can't remember the battle. I don't know enough about Eldar to quote what battle it was, but that was a giant Wraith Knight, and then the Wraith Knight's not even the big one, whatever the big Eldar.
The Reaver Titan.
That's it.
No, not Reaver, is it? I cannot remember the name of it, but
the giant Eldar thing that on that lava base was amazing. But they were all like jaw-droppingly good.
Phantom and the Revenant Titans.
Phantom, that's what it was. I was like, I swear it was like a ghost name. That's okay.
Yeah.
Look at me partially remembering things.
too many names in Warhammer to keep track
they're all
of. That
a
is for
little
sure.
similar at times.
And on top of that, on the Saturday we have the open day, of course. First off, your models being shown off in a glass cabinet in Warhammer World as an official part of a Games Workshop event. Nervous? Excited?
Oh, it was just surreal. Surreal is the only word I could define it as. I wasn't really nervous. I was blown away, really. And then I saw that it was next to Richard Gray's, and I like seriously almost started crying. I was trying not to have, it was so funny. I was trying not to have like a Miss America moment, but I was like, this is why all these chicks end up crying, because this is like you can't wrap your brain around what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fair enough. It absolutely deserved to be there.
Thank you.
Fantastic model. I mean, it was weird. Don't get me wrong. I think it's always a bit weird. Just being that official part of that as well, like, is it just doesn't happen, does it? Really?
I was actually walking around with Miss Peachy, So looking at the cabinets with him, I'm like,
you little miss, like kind of schmoozer over there having a game of Warcry in Bugman's Bar with Mr. Peach.
Yeah, well, it had been in the making for like 3 years, because it was like, all right, I'll see you at Adepticon, and then Adepticon got canceled because of COVID, and then it was like, all right, I'll see you at Adepticon when Adepticon happens, and then he didn't make it to Adepticon. I was like, I don't care what happens. I don't care if I'm like dying of the plague. I'm gonna somehow make this game happen when I'm over there. And it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. That's awesome. And on top of all that, you got possibly the most attention out of anyone in our group.
I don't know.
Dressed as Latara Saren.
Yes.
So did that come about because of you diving into the books when you were painting?
Yes.
It was.
Yes. So I insta fell in love with her in the books. I was like, I hope she's not like one of those like obnoxious, like, action G.I. Jane, like action chicks. Like, that's just so cliche. And then she's just like this super, no nonsense, tell it like it is, abs of steel, as they say. Those were not present. But really, I mean, we've been on vacation. If anything, I was working on like Churchill jowls instead of abs. Yeah. So it was no, yeah, that came about because of the books, and because of what a strong character she was, but also because her costume's incredibly easy. It's just riding pants, boots, and the jacket I got on Amazon. I felt really bad because there were all these other cosplayers that had like built their stuff, and literally mine's just a white jacket with a red handprint and epaulets. So super easy, and leather gloves. So super easy cosplay. For a very fun character.
Whatever works. I think that's the one thing I've learned from cosplayers. They're like, just do whatever you need to do. It's like painting, really, isn't it? Get the end results you want. Doesn't matter how you get there.
Make it look like the person. The end. And they were really nice. I was super I didn't know they were going to be there either. So I step out the cab, dressed as Latara Saren, so I'd have like a talking point.
Yeah.
Because it's something I could get excited about that other people may or may not get excited about. And then I see all these like full-on power armor suits walking around. And then I'm like, oh God, I just showed up to this in like a Halloween costume. And these guys are the real deal. But they were really nice. They were like, yeah, come get pictures with us. I was like, if you think so?
It was better than a Halloween costume. I'll give you that. But so was it partly also a conscious effort to break down barriers between you and people there?
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. Because I like I said, I only knew like the main storyline. So I could hold my own in a conversation about Horus Heresy, but I'd rather have it be genuine instead of me just treading water going, I think I know what that is. So this was more of either, oh my God, you're Latara Saren, let's talk about this, or it's, hey, you look cool, what are you? So I get I'm super awkward, as you may or may not have picked up on. That if I don't have a talking point, like if I go to a party, if I go to like a dinner party with my husband, like a work dinner party kind of thing, I'm like, does anyone there do like nerdy stuff and he like D&D like Warhammer? Does anyone? He's like, no, you're gonna have to talk about normal things. I'm like, oh God. I get really nervous if I don't have a talking point. So my enthusiasm for the character and the social the social nuances were definitely motivations behind that.
That's a clever thing to do, to be fair. It's quite sharp. Awesome. Were there any real surprises about that time? Like the whole thing was does anything jump out as like, oh wow, I didn't expect? Or just generally was a bit of an experience that was outside the norm?
That the latter, yeah. Generally that. Other than the I don't know, it was just such a sense of surrealism. It was kind of hard to write down what I expected. Expected that it was going to be surreal, and it was.
Cool, awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
And are you looking at other Horus Heresy things now?
I am actually. And that also comes with. I feel like it's such a story-driven platform. Like,
yeah.
I feel like that's what makes it unique, really, because you can get into 40K just by look of the models. You can get into Age of Sigmar the same way, but with Horus Heresy, because they're all different flavors of Space Marines, I feel like that emotional connection to the story, and characters and factions in the story is what drives it essentially. So yeah, getting involved with the story, especially the World Eaters and even the Word Bearers. I didn't know anything about the Word Bearers, and hearing about them now, I'm like, well, I kind of want to see what the whole demon shtick is about. So there's a lot of pieces to a big puzzle, and you can look at them all as you wish. So I intend to at least get like a decent force of pre-heresy World Eaters.
Awesome. That's really cool to hear, actually. It's always exciting. I think Henry Steele's been talking on various things about it's like for us who have been in Heresy, it's like you've just discovered our favourite band.
Yeah.
And we get to go, oh, you haven't heard the early stuff, like that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, for sure.
So, yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. Well, it's been wonderful talking to you again. It's only been a week. It feels like it's been a lifetime ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's quite strange when you're locked in that environment for a few days. It's time.
The sense of time during things. And the sense of time since have been very strange.
Yeah, and I only travelled home in the car, like flying home and everything. Just only creates more of a weird sense of scale of that. But awesome. Well, I'm sure we'll chat. But I'll see you at Adepticon next year, I hope.
I think so. Yeah, I very much plan on going.
Oh, so do I. I've got the money sitting in a bank account. It's been sitting there for 2 years, but it's all good. Anyway, thank you for coming on. And
thanks for having me. Seriously.
No worries. We'll catch you again.
All right. See you, Greg.
Well, next up, I'd like to welcome to the show Mikey and Georgie, Hellstorm Wargaming. How are you doing?
Hello, mate. Oh, I'm very good. How are you?
Grand. And you, Georgie?
Yeah, not doing too bad, thank you. Thank you for having us on. I'm very excited.
No, thank you for coming on. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So you guys, let's start with who you are first. So what is Hellstorm?
Hellstorm's my thing that we do. Well, basically, I forced Georgie to play random games with me on the channel sometimes, but most of it's like 40k news and a lot of it's 40k and Age of Sigmar, but we are wanted to lean into Horus Heresy. Again, like forcing Georgie to play random games with me was most of it,
Excellent stuff. That's what we like to hear. I got the missus to play the Lord of the Rings, the Barlin's Tomb, while we were away at Christmas. So, she'll dip her toes in, but
excellent.
Nothing too much. So where can we find Hellstorm?
It's pretty much exclusively YouTube these days. So Hellstorm Wargaming on YouTube.
there we go. Just want to get that out there. We'll put notes, we'll put links in the show notes and everything as well for you guys. So I should probably say, well, we'll start right at the beginning. You get an email from GW. How was that?
It was quite funny actually, because obviously I got the email, but it was addressed to Georgie and me.
Oh wow!
And I want that on the
Which
record, okay? By name, I was.
Yeah.
So they know their stuff.
Yeah. So clearly they wanted Georgie there, and I was just supplementary to that. It was just I had to come along because that's just how it was. But it's pretty mad, to be honest, because when I was asked, it was like, "What are you and Georgie doing on this date?" And I was just like, "I don't know why." And they were
Sure.
like, "We can't tell you yet." And I was like, "Right, okay." And then they kind of went into it, and it was just a bit like, "Oh my god, I can't believe there's this big relaunch of a game that I thought was." It's been a very on the back burner by GW for a long time, and then they kind of went into details of like what was happening. I was just like, oh my god! And you trusted me with that? I mean, Georgie, but you trusted me with that?
Absolutely. So, were you about to say Heresy is dead?
I wasn't
fully
about to say
was.
Heresy is dead. I was just saying
Yes,
that
you were.
it's just a very small game in particular.
And it's fine, because that was something that was constantly out there, and something I rallied against the Heresy community using that, because the more you repeat it, the more people hear it, the more it becomes a thing. So I think it's fair to say for people who are in a different environment, different game system, that your access to, or your kind of attention to the Heresy would have been reduced. And that's understandable. So you're getting different bits and pieces. How familiar with the Heresy were you before?
I played very minimal Heresy back when I was still playing 7th edition 40k, because obviously it was the same system. Sure. I've bought every single Heresy box set they've done for miniatures, so I have them all. But yeah, I haven't really touched it for a long time, and just to go back to that point, it was kind of like, I don't think it's the community's fault that Heresy was struggling. I just think it's just kind of been ignored and left on the back burner for so long.
But it doesn't help when the community is saying things.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I mean. That became a meme that was misunderstood by a lot of people. But yeah. Georgie, how about you and the Heresy?
So for me, I'm not as much of a player. I'm a lot more of a reader. So in terms of Heresy and lore and backstory and all the Black Library stuff, that's kind of where my interest really lies with it. So I was really, really, really excited to kind of get more into the game element of it, because I have some good friends who play predominantly 30k and not 40k, and they're lovely people, and they do kind of have that similar mindset that you said in terms of, well, it's not that it's not going anywhere, it's not that it's not evolving, and like you said, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, can't it, if people keep reiterating, oh, it's dead, it's this, it's that. And I think, like you say, it's important to think about how we use language when we discuss things like this in a really big way. So I think it was just a really cool opportunity to get more into, I guess, kind of the more, in big air quotes, Heresy side of Heresy, like the gaming and the actual minis and the gameplay and the rule set, as opposed to me just being able to give you a detailed backstory of different characters.
So were you up to date? Were you up to date with the novels?
I haven't reread them in a very long time, but I've read nearly all of like the Horus.
Oh, cool. No, that's cool. That's cool. Mike, can you read?
No.
I can read, as long as it's got profiles and special rules in the description.
Excellent stuff. That's fine. It's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good.
I did the same thing that everyone else did. I read the first 5 books of Heresy and loved it. Read the one with Lionel Johnson, got bored, and then never picked it back up again. I think
fair.
Yeah, I think everyone did the same thing. Every time I say it, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, fair enough." I'm like, and now I can't get back into it.
No, it's not uncommon, shall we say?
Yeah,
that's absolutely fine. So, you're asked to be part of the open day with a strictish time schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And which legion did you do?
Well, we painted the Iron Hands, which is kind of a bit of a meme that we got those because In 40k, I tend to bounce around which chapter I play my Marines as, because I play Blood Ravens in 40k. Do you know they get the faction from the Dawn of War game?
Yeah.
So I kind of change what rules I use for them a lot, and at the minute I'm running them as Iron Hands, and GW were like, well, you do that, and it'd be funny if we made you paint an Iron Hands army for once. I was like, yeah, fair enough. Paying for my sins, I guess.
That's all good. And how was that? So you build and paint together?
I did all the building.
Right.
Yeah.
Georgie came up with the scheme.
I'm not an engineer. I'm not a patient person. So, like, in terms of building, I'm bad at it. There would be mold lines everywhere. There'd be shoulder pads that were like 3 blocks apart. But painting, that I can spend hours doing. So yeah, it was collaborative, definitely. And it's interesting because I've never even, no shade to Iron Hands, never even thought about engaging with Iron Hands in that way, I guess, in terms of paint, because I really enjoy painting too, and like building an army of them. I'll be honest, I wanted Word Bearers or Blood Angels, but they were spoken for.
I was offered Word Bearers first, actually.
Oh, really?
I turned them down.
It sounds like Word Bearers are just getting passed along until they came to us, and then they weren't available.
The only reason I turned them down was because Iron Hands were easier to paint. But sorry, Iron Warriors. Apologies.
For sure.
Well, there's certainly 10 Terminators anyway. That's why. But it's all good. It's all good. So cool.
It's quite fun though, because me and Georgie both paint. But we've never painted anything together, I don't think.
Okay.
We've always painted our own projects. And it was quite fun to do something together as well. But it's kind of like production line almost. I was like, right, I'll airbrush all the eyes. Right, you go wash all the details now. And, it's quite fun.
So is that the secret of how you went from, I'm going to be the last one to finish, to it's all done in no time at all?
Basically, it was a weekend, right, where we just like got up, had a coffee, sat down, production line, and it was difficult because we do, and we paint, have very different styles of how we like things to look. So
that went down
quite a bit of an argument.
No, Georgie, you are painted them like this.
yeah.
I'm sure Georgie did exactly as she was told.
Of course,
Never.
But now, as a peek behind the curtain, I think it took me about 2.5 weeks to build it all, because it was just never ending, especially those damn shoulder pads on those damn Mark 6 Marines.
Yeah,
being in
and
two
the
halves.
mold lines on the backpacks, bless them.
It's just kill me now. But then it took us I think it took us 4 days to paint it all?
Maybe? To like fully base paint, every bit, get them finished, probably, yeah.
Oh, that's really good. I am much slower than when you were all talking about how slow you're going to be. I was like, no, I got you beat. Turns out other people had all of us beat, but that's all part of the fun. Bless them. So we then rock up to Warhammer World. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. What were your best bits, Mikey, first?
The best bits? Ooh.
From those first 3 days.
Yeah, I think the best bit was just there was lots of cool stuff, and I don't want to diminish anything we did, but being able to hang around with lots of cool people in Bugman's was definitely a highlight. Especially because we just took over 4 tables we could just pass around and just be like, let's just go around the table and then we'll have a loads of things to talk about and stuff. But that was super fun. But as an official thing, rather than just the bit in between, I think having a proper demo game by GW was really, really fun. And it definitely took me back. Do you know, that first time you walked into Games Workshop and they're like, do you want to play a game? I'm like, yeah, go on then.
I used to be a staff.
Did you?
I used to run Sunday Club and all that. Yeah, I was that guy. These hit on threes. These do that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly the same.
It was quite funny because I'm going in there with all my 40k knowledge of being asking all these really intense questions, can you pile in this way? Can I do this? Can I do this? And then I'm just basically at the end of it, I lose the game. And we just rolling dice together, which is so fun. But yeah, it's between those two, I couldn't choose. I mean, we played against Andy Wardle and Henry from Cult of Pain,
and it was still fun.
Yeah,
okay, that's
because we were just winding each other up the entire time, which is fun.
Yeah,
absolutely. Even weirdly, so I know Simon Grant originally from when he worked at Eastbourne Store, doing that very thing he was doing with us. Yeah, so 20 years ago or whatever. So it was good fun that Simon helped run my game. That was cool. Georgie, you?
I did love like the demo game as well, because it's also what I used to do. So I used to work in a gaming store, and I used to give demos of all the different games of like 40k and all the other games we used to play. So that was a little bit of nostalgia for me. But I don't want to go full after school special and be super cringy. But I do have to agree that meeting so many people who this is going to sound so fangirly, like know from Instagram and know from the internet, and having them not just live up to my expectations, but so wildly exceed them in how kind they were and how welcoming they were. Obviously, meeting you was the highlight of the entire time.
Had no idea who I was.
Of course I did. I was like, oh, it's great, it's great. But everyone being so kind and so friendly was just the absolute highlight. And also getting the studio tour. That was sick. That was really, really awesome.
Was cool.
That was amazing.
So who was your favourite, Georgie? Who's the one painter?
Who's my favourite what? I'm sorry, the signal's really breaking up, so I can't
you have to name one of the painters who you're most fangirling to see.
Can I be really honest?
Of course.
And I'm sorry if it's going to upset everyone, but I'm a really big fan of Ems, and
awesome.
I love her so much, and the fact that we became buddies was just like.
You did say that on the way, didn't you? You were like, I really, really want to chat to Em because I love her stuff.
She's great. She's grumpy like me as well, so we get on pretty well.
It's quite funny that we're like,
everyone, for the record, everyone was incredible. So I want to put that out there.
Incredible. It's quite funny that we're like, thanks Games Workshop for this amazing trip, but the best bit was when we were doing nothing, just chatting.
Well, I mean, that's always the way, isn't it? This is a very social game, so I think we can allow that. The open day itself, how was that? Have you? Obviously, it's so weird when people experience. I'm on a podcast. I get less than people who are on video, but people feel like they know you. How was the open day and mixing with that and sitting behind a table with your models? And
I think the sitting behind the table with the models was the most stressful bit. We were chatting to people all day, and people are randomly bumping into us, being like, we watch your content, really big fans. It's super cool. And then we sat at the table, and it all felt official, and I think people got a little bit scared. And I think that's probably been one of the complaints of the weekend as well, or the day, is just like the tables like put people off.
It's a hard one because they want to have a known point when you're going to be there, and to have some of your models out as a talking point. I think some people didn't necessarily look at the models and see that they were like the introduction into the people that were there. But, lessons. I'm sure lessons will be learned for next time they do it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Again, it's their first one. Lots of teething issues, but yeah, it's fun. I mean, I took this. One of the models that we took out was the Spartan, and I kept telling people that the reason I hadn't painted all the models for the box set because we missed 10 tactical marines, legionnaires, and I was like, oh, they're in the Spartan as a joke, but I'd actually like chopped most of them off the sprues and put them in a bag inside the Spartan so I could show everybody bits that they hadn't seen. So so rude. Here I was sweating. Every model in that box gets painted.
Some people, huh?
Spartan, 10 dudes just chucked in the back.
Yeah, somebody decided to forget to build them, prime everything, run out of primer, then realised after the fact I decided to just not say anything until the day. I must admit, I had 2 models go missing. I was like, I'm missing 1 Terminator and 1 dude, and I'm sweating oh my god, where have I put them? And they were just in my cluttered desk somewhere amongst loads of other stuff. Like, oh shoot, I haven't painted them at all. After fit them in, almost. I think I don't know. It was a stressful experience. Should have them in the Spartan, mate. So much easier.
I just left them at home. Who knows? It's whatever. It's all good. It could be worse. So Horus Heresy, obviously, you've got your channel. There's only so much time in the world and everything else. What are your thoughts on the Horus Heresy after the open day? Having played a bit of the game, seen the box.
I'm definitely excited for the gaming aspect of it, and I know a lot of people who are involved in the channel are quite excited to like grab a box and give it a try, because I think the problem with the system before, I mean, obviously I haven't played the system since it was like really bad, you know, and I know it's had an update or two since then in the past few years. Like, I think of Horus Heresy gaming system, I think of invisibility and D-weapons being everywhere, you know. But I'm excited because obviously, like, with this new refresh, it's given a whole new lease of life into the game, which is great, and everyone's just really hype about it. And like, even Georgie is hype about the game, which is something that she would never say like 6 months ago. You know,
Yeah,
I only just got to play Curse City, you know,
which I love, by the way. That's
you
a great
did love
game.
Curse City, yeah, and that is a good game.
vampire,
But for Georgie to be excited about Heresy, it's a bit out there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that it helps a millionfold, and you'll get this from your past experience when you've got somebody who is so unbelievably passionate about the game, explaining it to you in a way that's not prohibitively complicated, isn't, you know, because I think the issue can be when someone who plays the game and that's kind of their main involvement in the hobby tries to teach you a game, you can become very, very overwhelmed very, very quickly with rules, because unless you're literally trained to teach people, you're going to try and give everybody all the information at once, right? So I think when you're given those demos by the guys who love the game and who know how to demo a game really effectively, of course you're going to get hyped. And I think the rules that they've got for this are really, really different. They've incorporated some really fun kind of dynamics and stuff. I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what was the favourite new kit they showed off? If you could pick one.
Ooh, I'm excited about. I think everyone's going to be saying the same thing, but I'm excited about the Kratos. That tank looks so cool. I want a big fat Volkite cannon on tracks.
Awesome. So, Georgie?
I mean, I remember when we were at the open day, I had like 3 of my different friends messaging me, "Oh, have you got any more pictures of the Kratos tank? Have you got any more pictures you can send me of the Kratos tank now?" I think that's everyone's excited. I just like little beaky boys, but tanks are cool.
The beaky boys are cool, yeah.
I
think the one thing I want to see is a plastic Leviathan, because I'm obsessed with the Leviathan. It's such a cool dreadnought, and if they did that, I'd just be like,
yeah, I think.
Well, I play Iron Hands now, so dreadnoughts are their thing.
Logic states like Games Workshop like to sell dreadnoughts.
They do love to sell dreadnoughts.
They love to sell dreadnoughts.
Buy dreadnoughts, so I think we could be good friends.
Exactly. So I'm fairly certain that that's going to happen at some point. So the Iron Hands are going to be yours, Mikey, or are you going to share them?
Maybe we could collectively play Iron Hands, or maybe we do have to go out and get a Word Bearer's army as well, because we do need some baddies to play against. Because that was always the biggest problem with like any game system on the channel is having armies for it. Sure. It's obviously such a time dedication, such a big expense, a big cost as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now we've got an army ready to go. I got forced into painting one finally, so I think it'd be rude not to get some baddies and play them against each other. You know.
I think baddies is subjective. I just want to point that out. I just want to clarify.
I mean,
sorry, generic red boys.
Have you met Corfaran and Erebus? I think even the traitors call them baddies. So
right,
I think we're fine. We're fine on that front. That's awesome. Have you got anything else you want to add about the weekend? If you haven't,
I just want to give a shout out to the organisational team. As well, because I think they had a lot of obstacles thrown in their way, and I know that it can't have been
like 34 of us.
Yeah, exactly. And it must have been like herding cats, because oh my god, it was hard enough to figure out where everyone was going after breakfast, let alone get us all in the same place at the same time doing the same things. But yeah, Andy and co did amazingly, and I just love meeting you all. And I know I'm gushing, but I don't care. It was fabulous. And I was just really happy to be involved.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
It was a mint day, and like we can say what it was like from our perspective, but thinking about like what is this from the perspective of someone who like bought a ticket for the price you pay for what you got, it was actually really, really cool. Yeah. Like you got a free marine, you got a free demo game, you got to paint the marine, you get
some
to look
people
around.
got about 15 free marines by the sound.
That sounds like it, yeah. And then
classy.
You know, loads of cool people you might see on Instagram, you might not have seen on Instagram, but are all into Heresy. It was super cool. So it was just a super cool day and overall a really fun experience.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you guys for coming on. It's been a pleasure. We'll all meet up somewhere soon, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, can't wait.
Excellent stuff. Cheers. I would like to welcome now to the channel Pardo. How are you doing, Pardo?
Hello, buddy. All good here. Just
Excellent
finished
stuff.
work, so
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to fit all this around work has been most challenging, but it's all good fun.
it is, and I'm looking forward to the chat. So,
Excellent, thank you. So, for people who aren't aware, what do you do in the wargaming community?
so I'm founder of SN Bar Reports, which is a web page and a YouTube channel dedicated mostly to battle reports, but we also do events a couple of times a year. We have the exclusive No Retreat events. Which probably a lot of people have heard about, or hopefully heard about.
Yeah.
Basically do what we do in the hobby. So 40k battle reports, starting Horus Heresy battle reports again. We also do the classic style White Dwarf type of battle report as well on our website. And extra content.
Awesome. And through that, have you had much contact with GW?
Yes. So I've been on an NDA with them for now, I believe it's 4 years now. So
Excellent.
just the normal, get stuff to preview and and all that stuff.
How was it? How was it for you getting the slightly unusual email about this project?
Yeah, for the Horus Heresy one.
Yeah.
It was very exciting. So, like I've already stated briefly, we used to do Horus Heresy battle reports, but due to time mostly and everybody having a full-time job, we had to commit to either 40k or Horus Heresy. And at that point, 40k had a new edition, so we went towards 40k. But I am a big fan of Horus Heresy. I have not stopped playing Horus Heresy, even though we haven't been recording. So having that email drop in, and obviously, as you can imagine, I was very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been. And what legion do you play?
My main faction is Iron Warriors, but I do have a couple of different factions as well. But my main army and my biggest army are the Iron Warriors.
Oh, excellent stuff. So, obviously, when did you get into the Horus Heresy? Can you remember when?
So, I actually got mostly into Horus Heresy, and I'm sorry that I keep on mentioning 40k, but there was a stage. There was a stage at 40k where it wasn't the nicest place. It was at the end of 7th edition. I was so unhappy with how the edition was going that I started moving on mostly into Horus Heresy. There was a couple of club members at the time here in Gibraltar that were already playing Horus Heresy, and basically, who doesn't like Marines versus Marines, and with all the narrative that goes with it with the Horus Heresy. So I started about maybe 5 years ago, and I went straight in, and like any hobbyist, you start buying so much stuff, and armies start growing really, really fast as well.
Absolutely. So, was there a decent scene in Gibraltar?
There was Gibraltar. For those that don't know where Gibraltar is, we're a small little country in the tip of Spain. We are British, but it's more like a city, like a town. It's only a population of 30,000. So we do have quite a big club, Warhammer related. We've got about 60 members. And of those 60 members, I would say that maybe 4 or 5 were playing Horus Heresy in a weekly basis. So I joined that little group, and it went from there. We were playing in a weekly basis, so we were very excited about obviously expanding on armies and playing different legions, and it was good times.
Awesome. That's what we like to hear. So they've contacted you, they want you to be involved, you've jumped at the chance. And what legion did you paint for the event?
I'm a big fist collector. I've got Imperial Fists, I've got Crimson Fists from 40k. So basically, the email actually stated that they wanted me to be the Imperial Fist just because of my hobby background with them. And obviously, that was very exciting news, and I was very happy about that because I do really love Imperial Fists. So yeah, we went for the Imperial Fists. Didn't need to force me. I was straight in when they said it. So yeah, we actually painted the Imperial Fists Legion.
Awesome. Did you ever think that maybe you and Richard Gray could get together and you could do your fists to fit in with his Dawn?
Whoa! So that was actually funny. We've actually had a couple of funny conversations. Like, obviously, his Dawn is absolutely amazing, and it is painted in non-metallic metal. And he's actually telling me, why didn't you do your whole army in non-metallic metal? I'm like, oh, shut up! Like, wow, yeah. So his Dawn is absolutely spectacular. I keep on joking that he's going to gift it to me, and he every time he says no. So, but I'll keep on trying.
Yeah, we will as well. Yeah, when I get him on, I'll get him on the show and ask him there. Put some pressure on him for you. Don't worry about that. So, how did you find like the timescale painting that stuff up? Was that obviously because you've got a team of guys, haven't you?
Yeah. So SN is a team of 5 members. Mostly the members are here to actually put out content and play battle reports. But we have a team member. Whose name is Benji, Stanfast Studios on Instagram, who is a very, very good painter. He's actually very talented, and so he was the main guy painting the whole box set. We did help out, obviously, building the box set and help out with basing and stuff to just speed up the process, because as many of us, I think it was a bit short time to when the box arrived to when they had to have it back. So it was a bit stressful, but we did enjoy it. Obviously, who doesn't enjoy painting and sticking plastic Horus Heresy models finally? So yeah, it was very enjoyable, and but yes, it was very stressing.
Awesome. And when you've come over for the weekend, what was your favourite part of that weekend?
So I think it was very, very cool weekend. You know, like you were obviously there, so
yeah.
Exciting times. We saw a lot of things that we wouldn't have had the privilege to see if we weren't one of these invited content creators. But I think the best thing of all was actually putting names to faces, or faces to names. And meeting other content creators that obviously I had been hearing their work before, seeing their work before on YouTube or podcasts like yourself, and actually meeting them in person was actually my cherry on top for the whole weekend. I think I really enjoyed that.
Awesome. And obviously we got an intro game as a Horus Heresy player. How did that feel for you, seeing the new dynamics, reactions?
So that was actually quite funny because, to tell you the truth, we had the book for about a month or month and a half before we actually went to UK. So I had actually already been playtesting the rules.
You have?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes. So I actually helped out a bit with some rules that they were explaining differently, or so that was cool. It was actually cool to actually help out as well at the same time, and actually ask some questions of how rules were interpreted, because obviously when you're playtesting and fairly new to the new edition, the new freshened up edition, obviously having the main Games Workshop staff there explaining it to you did help a lot. So yeah, and it was really cool because my army was one of those legions that we were practicing with, so it was cool.
Yeah, excellent. And the open day itself, being there, having your model, having the channel's models on show. How did that feel for you?
Yeah, that was a bit surreal. I think probably the same for you guys, right? Obviously, having your models represented at an official Games Workshop event in a glass cabinet, and having queues of people just standing in a queue just to actually have a glance at them was very cool to see, and people obviously talking about them and asking you how they were painted and if you liked the plastic models and the kits. So yeah, a bit surreal, but obviously very, very cool to actually see.
Yeah. So we also got to see. Well, no, let's start with all the content creator stuff. Did you have a favourite Legion or Primarch, or is it just Richard Gray's Dawn because he's Dawn?
There's so many actually. Obviously, I read a lot of the books, so you do fall in love with certain Primarchs and certain battles along the way. But yeah, there's too many to choose from. Dawn obviously being my Legion is something that I really enjoy. Obviously, Petrarabo being my main army. Again, is someone that I really enjoy. But there's a couple of different Primarchs as well, which I do follow very well. Sanguinius is one of my favorite as well. It's just, it just there's so much narrative in each and every one of them that it's hard to actually choose one.
Sure, that's fair enough. Yeah, no problem with that whatsoever. And of the new stuff they showed off, what's got you most excited model-wise from the new edition?
I think it's that Sakarian everybody's talking about. It looks absolutely stunning.
The Kratos, the big one.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
And obviously, knowing that it's plastic as well, I think adds to the excitement. But something I think that we're not really talking about much, and we should, is all the extra kits for the upgrades for the plastic troop boxes. So, the heavy weapons, the special weapons upgrades on them. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I think I was very excited about that as well.
Yeah, that came out of the blue, didn't it? Because we at the event, we weren't watching the live stream, and it kind of happened there. They announced how they were doing it. Did you find out on that day? Was it?
Well, I don't know if you remember, but when we were doing the playtesting, or not the playtesting, the testing of the new edition, there was actually some cabinets in there, and there was some models represented with the heavy and the special weapons, but obviously we didn't know that those upgrades were plastic as well.
Or coming in a box of 60 or whatever it is.
Exactly, yeah. So quite surprised, but obviously it was great news to actually hear, and as well announcing that every 3 different marks of armor will be in 3 different boxes as well is great to actually see.
Yeah, absolutely. And has there been locally, I say on the Rock, has there been much excitement about second edition?
So yeah, apart from just the club, basically SN in general, and a lot of viewers and fans from the last couple of years, which have stayed with us even though we haven't been putting out the content, have been messaging us and obviously emailing us, and we have been posting on social media about past battle reports and what we're doing behind the scenes, and have officially announced that we will be doing battle reports again, video battle reports. And obviously there's been a massive excitement in the social media, and the club the same thing. Those couple of players that had maybe not fully stopped playing, but had slowed down just because obviously everybody was looking forward to a refreshment in the edition, have now started talking again. We have started up a WhatsApp group as well with my closest friends and my heresy friends from abroad as well. So yeah, excitement all around.
Awesome. And are you going to expand on those armies? Is the Mighty Iron Warriors going to get larger, or is there a new project?
Obviously, I think that's a question for hobbyists. I think there's never a no. I think everything always gets bigger and bigger, especially with so much plastic coming out. So I think I'll get some more plastic kits just because they're plastic and not resin. But studio-wise, we are getting a couple of legions. We are getting a Sons of Horus Legion being commissioned at the moment. Obviously, DC, one of the members, does collect word bearers, so he's painting up some new fresh units to go with his new heresy army. And we've got the Imperial Fists from the box set, so we'll be expanding with that. We already have a couple of special characters and a couple of dreadnoughts being painted up to add to that specific box set as well. And just as we're going to try and have as many legions in the next couple of months being represented on the channel.
Awesome. That's great to hear. More content and events as well. Is that something you're considering?
Yeah, so we actually a couple of weeks ago actually published on social media that our No Retreat Horus Heresy events will be back in 2023. So for those of you who are new to Horus No Retreat, basically it's like an exclusive invite event where people apply with their armies, and we normally try and fit in all the legions being represented, and we try and fit in people from all around the world. There's been like 16 countries being represented at No Retreat before, and it's more of a hobby weekend. We organize barbecues, we organize tourist attractions, so we go into the First and Second World War tunnels. We have beautiful tables in a beautiful floating cruise liner hotel, which is stationed now in Gibraltar. And we did 2 of those events about 3.5 years ago, maybe 4.
Yeah.
And obviously we stopped because obviously our content creation stopped doing Horus Heresy. But now with the new edition, we have officially announced that we will be doing events again. So exciting times.
Awesome. Yeah, in a few years' time, I might have to apply for one of those once the little one's a little bit older.
Definitely.
I can't wait. Awesome. Is there anything around the event that you want to mention briefly that you think I've overlooked? Anything like that? Or no worries if not?
No, I think basically we will have a rules pack obviously coming out very soon, but and we do have a couple of close friends that haven't stopped doing events, like the guys from Greetings from the Warp, Chris, Andrew, who do amazing events. So obviously we'll have a little chat with them, see what people are enjoying at the moment. Obviously the new edition coming into play, we will probably tweak some rules and stuff for the event itself. And just make it an enjoyable event. Obviously, we know that all these Horus Heresy enthusiasts like to have the narrative in the event itself. So even though it is a tournament, we always like to have that vibe of the narrative in. So we'll look and see for new innovations for the event to be as better as ever.
Awesome stuff. Well, yeah, that's great to hear. I look forward to seeing some of the content coming out as well. And just want to say, Pardo brought over some T-shirts for people as well. Like, if you want more, there's a really good episode of 40k Game Changers with Pardo on, where you can get to know a little bit more about him. But he's a cracking guy. I'm bigging you up there, man.
Thank you very much.
It's all good. Wonderful. Thank you for coming on. That's really good. And yeah, I can't wait till we maybe throw some dice against each other at some point.
And hopefully Horus Heresy grows as much as possible again, because the edition is looking very good. Obviously the refreshment and the extra little things they've added to it, they've taken a bit of clunkiness away as well, so it's more streamlined. So yeah, I think we're in a very good place at the moment.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Cheers, man.
Thank you.
I'd like to welcome to the show, both of you have been on before, Henry and Andy from Cult of Paint. How you doing?
Good day.
Hi, mate. Nice to be on again.
Indeed. Weird you say good day, Andy, because the first time we had you on, you just landed in Australia and I lost the recording.
Really?
We had to do it again like 2 days later, me and Neil. That was a long time ago, though. A long time ago. Anyway, Cult of Paint, who are you? What do you do? Has anyone in the Heresy not heard of you guys?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's plenty of people that haven't got a clue who we are. That's okay, though.
What is the Cult of Paint?
What's Cult of Paint? It is a company that provides classes. We make miniatures. We do online tuition. We do free tutorials. We do Patreon. We do... What else is there, mate? I'm trying to think. Do a podcast.
We're the jack of all hobbies.
Yeah. we decided to make getting into the hobby and producing for the hobby our business. So every opportunity we've had to do that, whether that's creating products, whether that's, providing tuition, all that sort of thing, we're just going with it. And it's gone really well. But I guess most people would know us. Certainly if you've done this pre-2020, most people would know us from painting classes. So we've run painting classes all over the world. We did a lot of heresy focused ones early days, but by the techniques themselves weren't anything to do with heresies. It was just there was some very engaged groups at the time that were heresy groups, and now you see it just as much with Star Wars Legion groups are really keen to sort of run classes, and it's the same class. It's just everyone there plays Star Wars Legion, or
absolutely
everyone plays 40k or whatever. But yeah, that's sort of where it came from.
And again, I'll put the links in the show notes to the YouTube channel as well, because it's one of the good ones. So if you want to go and see your favourite memes, or that's what you know for, it's all about the memes. So it's all good. Anyway, so you've been painting stuff for on preview for GW for a little while as well, bits and pieces. I'm going to ask this to everyone. How was that email /call that for this event? How did that feel?
One of the best ones, I think.
Yeah, that was amazing. Andy was like, "Oh, can you be free this lunchtime for a phone call with G-Dub?" And I was like, "Yes." And then that was it.
Did you have any clues? Did you have an idea?
No, not really. Because I don't. Did you, Andy?
I can't even remember if I thought it was going to be heresy related.
Because we've worked with them now
on the channel
for a while, for a few years actually, getting like preview stuff, and that's always been fun. It's been nice, we receive the odd kit, a week or two in advance, usually of release, and paint it up, and we've started doing a lot of tutorials on them because it's kind of fun to share when you get that new stuff. But we've never done, other than years ago when we got to do that contrast paint event with them, we've never had any more than that, really. We've done the odd article for the community site, but
who has?
It's never been any more than that, right? So I think I just assumed it was, they've got someone new in that post, and they're just talking to the.
All right, fair enough. I suppose that's where I'm coming from, a very different different environment. My first thoughts were, is this it? Are we finally getting it? Is it finally? We've seen it we've seen the fuzzy potato photo in the wilds for 8 months. Are we finally getting something? So obviously they got you to paint up White Scars. Between the two of you, was that a choice you had any impact on?
Oh yes,
massive impact.
I think was it 2? Yeah, it was. It was. We couldn't have fists, could we? And we couldn't have someone else.
I think we could have bullied off and got the fist if we wanted.
I think we could, yeah.
Or I don't know. They had Pardo pretty locked down on those.
We were very fortunate to have a lot of choice with it, and
well, we got the one we wanted. I think number one actually.
That's it. Yeah. I think we tossed it up. I think looking back, we said, we'd either have wanted Dark Angels or Scars, and I think the two things really in Scars' favour was White Armies look awesome, and we're very confident doing that. And Andy hadn't painted the Khan, whereas he had painted the Lion.
Yeah,
and that felt like two good enough reasons to pick. As long as all the other little ones, like I've had unfinished business with Scars for years. I've had a few goes at them, a few abortive starts. So it's nice now to sort of get that monkey off my back kind of thing.
I think that's why I wanted to do it, was just your White Scar and you did a long time ago, to be honest, because you've got to think about, well, this is representing us. It's a big opportunity. Like, people are going to be like, this is an army painted by Cult of Paint, and it's like, what can we do really well and show what we are? You've done great White Scars. The White Scar tutorial we already had on the channel looked great, and we knew that, like you said, white is something that we're very competent at, and it basically shows off what we can do in classes and stuff. So something that a lot of people might find difficult, we thought we could make look great. So
I think as well, we did sort of wonder how because we were told about the project, what it was going to be, to the point that they were inviting X amount of people to paint the box up and stuff. So we didn't really know much more past that. But the thought was, well, if all 18 armies are lined up next to each other, what's going to catch your eye. And it's going to be the white armies, it's going to be the yellow army, maybe the red army. So that was sort of another influence, wasn't it, on that? But also, like, they're just cool. Like, it's, like we like them.
Yeah, a little bit of business and a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Wright, like, hands down my favourite Heresy author, like, hands down, and the Scars arc in particular is just one of my favourite series within the Heresy.
Can we just
series.
say sorry? Can we just say sorry to ADB for who's listening now, who you've just discarded? But that's fine.
It's okay, you know. I'm not saying he's not very good, and I thoroughly enjoy.
He might agree, to be fair.
His books, but it's
So with all that in mind, a tight schedule. How was that for two of you, Henry? You got a little one. You're both working. A lot going on.
It was mad, mate. It was like, so Andy was thick into US Golden Demon prep, weren't you?
Yeah, it was a bad time to receive the Primarch.
It was smack bang in the middle of recording a load of stuff for the Eldar release. And we try our very best to schedule at least a month ahead of what we do. So we're sort of planning videos, especially when you've got videos coming out that might be under embargo and things like that. So although, you know, we got wind of the project earlier than we often get wind of most things, we still weren't able to get working on it until a few weeks out. So it was, and as you say, you know, there's personal situations as well on top of it all. You know, but it's I've not done such a high pressure project, I guess I call it. I can't remember the last time I did it. I mean, I was pulling silly hours to get it done and stuff, but it got done because it had to. There was no choice, right?
Yeah. Do you both feel an extra pressure based on the nature of it being your work as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, it's going to be shown off.
And extra pressure as well because we love Heresy.
Yeah.
You know, like, and as much as I'm excited about what the new sort of game is going to bring, and as in opening the community up and stuff, we're also aware of what portions of the vocal Heresy community are like. And, you know, I'm not normally nervous about putting my work up online, right? You know, I've become fairly numb to the YouTube comments, right? Early days we did YouTube, we'd be like calling each other, oh my God, have you seen what so-and-so said? Oh, no. Yeah. And then you very quickly learn to become sort of just not worry about it. But this was the first time in a while I'd actually I was like, oh man, I hope like so-and-so doesn't bag on this or this and that. And that was kind of horrible. So that was personally, that was an additional pressure for me. I wish it wasn't. But I'm not going to lie, right?
Andy, you know, a list of names painting Primarchs. And you in there as well. Similar kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure, because, you know, I've done Primarchs before and I know how long they take, and, you know, people are going to look at your stuff and quite frankly be like, oh, this guy got the stuff early. They've got to be good, otherwise why did they bother? And
exactly. That's what I kept asking.
And doing a Primarch in 2 weeks is, for me, insane. I don't know. I think I spent 8 months on Magnus. So, you know, just I can't do anything like that. So yeah, it was. You just don't want to look bad. Basically, you've been given this opportunity, and of course you want to do it. And you know, Games Workshop give it to you as early as they feel they can, I guess. But the time I had was just not enough for a Primarch. Sure. But I think that for the time, we did a great job.
You nailed it. So how did that feel then? Open day, doors open, models in the cabinet, people queuing up. What was that like?
It's just exciting. It's just exciting. You know, it's exciting that Heresy's getting a big open day at Warhammer World. You know, that was probably the biggest pump. You know, we'd been fortunate enough, hadn't we, to be there a few days, so we'd seen the majority of the new things that were on display. And I think it was just fun to see people just engaging and being excited about the majority of people there being excited about it all. I think you always get a few that are there looking for the faults, as it were, but the vast majority of people, certainly everyone I interacted with, both newcomers and a few old faces that have come back out of the woodworks, which was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That were like, for whatever reason I drifted away. Thought I'd poke my head in and see what's going on. And then I don't know how soon did you finally get to actually see your model, Andy? Because I reckon I'd been there over an hour before I could get near the cabinet to have a look.
I squeezed my head in between some taller people and I had a look. And so I got a little peek, but I don't know if I'm skipping ahead, but to be honest, my favorite part was seeing it on the community website.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same. So I finished putting the pigments on the bases of the models and pulled them off their corks, put them into a really useful box, jumped in the car, drove to Andy's house to pick up the Khan. Still had never seen the Khan. He was within a really useful box when I picked him up. Drove up to Warhammer World, handed him over, and we had not seen the army as a whole before that community article. We hadn't seen the Khan with the army. We discussed trying to match them as best we could, because I never like it when characters and things don't look like part of the army.
Sure.
I like them looking heroic and stuff, but I want them to look the same. Like they belong. And that's actually something we spoke about, because we didn't meet up at all during the couple of weeks we had to do it, but we did we were like, all right, we want to do the white like this. Yes, we've got a few White Scars recipes already out there, but we want to do a different one.
Yeah. So
we're like, right, we're going to do this sort of color base coat, this mid-tone, whatever. And we ended up using different paints, but we ended up with very, very similar colors.
Cool.
Awesome. So yeah, it was, the day was, sorry, we've gone off on a tangent, haven't we?
That's all right. I'm about to pull you back in. I'm going to pull you back in.
It was exciting. It was good fun. It was cool.
Sure. So, as you say, 3 days up there. Pick one bit that was your best bit, and you're not allowed to say meeting all the lovely heresy people. And I'm banning.
Well,
that.
we didn't meet anyone. What are you on about? We just sat there,
grumpy. Grumpy,
indeed, drinking coffee, not talking to anyone.
Yeah. So, what was your best part of that time up there?
Henry, you can go. I think I know mine.
Go on, you go then. I'll think.
I think I enjoyed doing the demo game because
it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I haven't played Heresy for a while, not because I haven't wanted to, but I sold my army and haven't finished a new one since. That's the only reason I haven't played. I just wanted a new army, and that's not done. But I haven't played in years, and it was a really nice feeling to remember all the rules, apart from being told the new ones, which were great. And it was just kind of like riding an old bike, and I was like, yeah, this is really cool. I remember how great this is, and I'm pretty bad for getting bored quite quickly of games, as in, like, I'll spend 2 years painting an army, and then after 10 games I'm like, well, I know how that army works now. I need a new army, which is not great. But yeah, a refresh of the rules, for good or for worse, actually, but different is important to me, just because you're not doing the same old thing, especially when it's marine on marine anyway. Yeah. So I think getting that excitement for Heresy again, and I'd already started my army, but getting an injection of enthusiasm via playing a demo game was really nice, actually.
Cool. Henry?
I think for me it was. I mean, yeah, we hustled Hellstorm Mikey in that game, which was a lot of fun. I think he thought he was the two painting simpletons, and we sort of.
I get this all the time.
We had a bit of a joke and a laugh, and then it got to the last term, and we just
stepped it up again.
We played the objective. That's all we did. But no, for me it was meeting people like Mikey and Georgie and stuff from Hellstorm, meeting the other content creators that had come not from Heresy. Like, I'm familiar with the vast majority of Heresy content creators and what they've done over the years, and it's by and large they're very similar in presentation, in style, in execution. And actually, it was really nice seeing guys and girls coming from sort of the 40k side of things, the AOS side of things, the big event running side of things that had I think a much more modern approach to it all, and it was just exciting, sort of observing that and thinking, oh, that's I'd like to bring some of that energy or what to it, or even just be excited to think what they might produce now that if they get into Heresy. They're not all going to get into Heresy, but I know quite a few of them are really keen. For the majority of them, I think it's been price point was a big barrier, understandably, but also that sort of slightly less it's harder to find a game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All those things.
So I can't think what the word is, but yeah. So I think that was the best bit for
accessibility.
Me. Yeah. What about you? What was your favourite bit?
Well, this is not about me. It's not about me at all. This is about you, and you'll have to wait to listen to the show for that one. So all of that, you don't, as you say, you both haven't necessarily played a huge amount of the game. Is it? Are you itching to paint, or are you itching to play, or are you a bit of both?
What about you, Andy? You go first, mate.
Yeah, I mean, Sons of Horus were one of the first things I did coming back to Warhammer as an adult, and I failed miserably through a lack of skill. Actually, they just didn't work. Couldn't make the transfers work. Couldn't make them look good. Right. And that was 2014. So yeah, 8 years on or whatever. And I've done a couple Sons of Horus for the new army, and I couldn't be happier. So
Angel Giraldo's painted his in 1 hour.
It's Horus.
It's Sons of Horus.
You can tell.
He was at the table painting a Sons of Horus model in an hour that went in the display cabinet at the event. So no excuses now on that, Andy.
I want mine to look really nice though, so I'm gonna.
His did. That's the worst bit. Anyway, so we get them out and play with them as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
I think, I played loads of Heresy. Let's not forget, we won a Heresy tournament. Let's not forget.
Tournament. What's one of them?
Exactly. Sorry, in Heresy,
it's fine. There can be tournaments. It's all good.
Yeah, I will.
Cool. And Henry, getting them on the table?
I don't know, mate, if I'm honest. I think it'll all depend on my local gaming group.
Sure.
And the wider community. The point is we have the scars. I'm gonna, when we receive them back, I'm gonna go back to them and touch them up a little bit. As Andy said, I think we were pleased with the what we put out given the constraints. But there's a few little things I'd like to do to them to be happier for me. Not suge, but little tweaks. I picked up the Forge World units a couple of months back before the price rise. So the speeder and the bikes. I'd wanted to get hold of those for ages, and when that price rise thing came in, I was like, I'll just pop them, and that was obviously prescient. So I will take that army up to a gaming sized army so that we've got something to use if we want to. But for right now, as of right now, my excitement lies much more in painting the models. Like, I want to paint a Death Guard Kratos. I want to paint, Blood Angels Land Raider when it comes out. I want to paint whatever. That's where I see it going. But that could all change if my gaming group get the box, fall in love with it, and want to play it every week. Then I'll be in. I'll be all in.
Cool.
It really. I really don't know. I'd be happy whatever happens because I'll be painting Heresy.
Sure. Awesome. So very quick one. Which was the best release they showed over the weekend? Was it the Kratos? Was it the heavy weapons packs?
I did like the over-the-shoulder heavy weapons. That's a nice little nostalgic.
Did you say the Kratos, Andy?
Nah, the heavy weapons.
The heavy weapons packs.
I like the Kratos, but it's not my favourite tank. It's cool, but it didn't get me super buzzed like the normal Marines. Like, I think my sort of shift over the years has changed to really liking the troops, and that's the most important part of the army. So I'm more buzzed off of the Marines. That's the core for me.
I am super tempted, like, just to do another 40 Mark 6 and more Contemptors, because I think it would just look rad. And ultimately, they were the two best kits, I think, in the box.
For me too.
No, that's wrong. They're not the best kits. They were my two favourite kits in the box. Supposedly, you can run a whole Contemptor army or Dreadnought army. I know you used to be able to as... Is it Iron Hands you used to be able to run it?
I don't like that at all.
You know, all you could take the Rite of War to run the
old dudes. What was it called? Ancients or something?
Ancient, right?
Yeah,
right. The Ancients or whatever it's called.
That
any Legion could do it, except for Space Wolves, because they couldn't have an actual.
Oh, really? Because I was like, that'd be cool for Space Wolves.
But they don't technically have apothecaries or whatever was needed.
Technicalities. I ain't going to worry about
exactly. But, anyone could do it.
But yeah, oh man,
I really don't like the sound of that, to be honest.
There's so many. The Kratos Dozer Blade was pretty cool. None of us had seen that.
No, that was a bit of a shocker.
And that thing is enormous, which was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Awesome. Anything from the weekend you think I've missed out that you really want to kind of shout out quickly? As Willow plays with some cardboard.
I don't know. It's been a really funny experience, the whole thing. Really, I think I've still got quite an air of trepidation around it, in that I care quite a lot about Heresy. You know, it's how I met both of you, actually. You know, it had a huge impact on me. You know, it's ultimately led to me having this job. So I care rather deeply about it as a thing. But there's also understanding that you don't have control over it, right? So I'm really hopeful that this is going to be enormously successful. And I mean, by that I mean support from GW, but also we just a huge amount of different Heresy communities. You know, different ways of playing, different ways of collecting, different shows to go to. Hopefully, we get more new content creators come out from it. You know, whether that's battle report channels or whether that's lore channels or whatever it is. I think that's the biggest thing for me to take from it is excitement, but nervous excitement, and the open day only served to heighten that. I think
anticipation.
Yeah. That's it. That's a good. Go with that word.
Andy?
I can't think of anything.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's all good. We had a lot going on that week, and we've already talked about the best bits, so that's fine. So I think we'll probably leave it there, chaps. But I'm sure at some point we'll get you both back on to chat something. We've got to wait and see what's coming out after the Primarchs are finished. So maybe there'll be some super.
Hang on. What do you mean by that?
Well, the Primarchs are currently done.
Start again, won't they? Start again?
Yeah. Give us some...
Maybe.
Give us some all in. Oh, yeah, will they though?
Well,
Angron was first, right?
Malkador, Emperor.
So Demon Angron. Angron was the first
Primarch with
model,
plastic.
right?
Angron will come out in plastic, and that will do.
No.
I'd love a Malkador model, but no rules.
I think
that's what I would absolutely love. Actually, is some character series stuff that it was just lore based.
Like the Emperor,
I don't like.
You
they don't
have
need
rules for the
rules.
Emperor, could you?
Like, wouldn't it be wonderful to have like a what are they called? Remembrances. Yeah, have a set of remembrances or something.
With no rules in game, GW might not agree to that. Yeah. But years ago, as I can't remember who said it, but might have been Tony. Well, you can't do the Horus Heresy without being able to play the final fight.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see an Emperor in time.
I will. So, although I'm really looking forward to what we get in the novels with that. But that's for another. You should bring back After All, Greg,
different talk.
And then we can talk about it
there. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I sell the kid. Go on OnlyFans so I can quit my job.
There you go.
Sorted. Anyway, we'll leave that there because we are really going off kilter. So thank you, chaps, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks,
Ciao.
mate.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Imperial Truth. If you like this episode and you want to support the podcast, you can do so. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of another episode of The Imperial Truth. Hopefully we've had some of you are new, and thank you for listening to congratulations, you've made it to the end of another episode of The Imperial Truth, unless you're new, in which case you've made it to the end of your first episode. Thank you all for listening. There is a second part to this, as the title should say. We have more chats with more people that were there at the open day, more of the content creators, and we're going to dive and look a little bit at the rules. I say a little bit, probably quite a lot. If you like what we do as a show, please subscribe on whatever format you use. You can find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, and all your podcatching providers. So you can do that. Also, if you really like what we do, maybe tell a friend about it. Leave us a review on wherever you listen to us. That all helps spread the word of the show. On top of that, if you really, really like it, we do have a Patreon as well. All the links are in the show notes for that. I just use it as a tip jar. But some people do feel that we deserve that, and I am eternally grateful for them and for anyone who shares the show or leaves a review. All thoroughly appreciated. We're super hyped for Heresy. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming. This is just the beginning. Games Workshop are throwing their weight behind this, and man, really loving it. So, as I say, the next episode will be with you hopefully fairly quickly, and then we will actually be back onto our regular episodes as well. So we might even get another episode after that fairly quickly as well. Hopefully we'll be back on that schedule going forwards, and you can appreciate this kind of extra content. And go and check out Warcom if you haven't been keeping up with it. There's some really cool stuff on there now. As I say, Games Workshop are really, really pushing this. We got Black Library link-ins with it as well, books being announced. The Heresy is in a good place, and I am excited to see how the community runs with it, and to see all the new people, hopefully, that will be flooding into our community. We've seen them already on the forums, and it's great to see. Let's all, if you're not new, if you've been in it for a while, let's all help those new people. Let's assume the best and go and answer those questions honestly and thoroughly as we can. And hopefully we'll be having so many events that you'll be so frustrated that you won't even be able to go to many of them, and we'll be having loads of cool content everywhere. And yeah, I think that'll do. As I say, we'll be back very soon, but until next time, you have been listening to The Imperial Truth.